calendar says it's cup final day. So once again, Wembley Stadium opens its gates to 100,000 fans for the highlight of the year's soccer season.
The experts are calling Wolverhampton Wanderers this year's wonder team.
11 men come back to Blackpool to one of the greatest welcomes ever accorded a football team. And Lofthouse runs in for a lightning goal. Tough luck for a sensational try that would have shaken Newcastle.
Anderson puts it just wide of Scott's right hand and makes it 2 up at half-time.
Not even a cup final can prevent the Goodison Park spirit invading Wembley. And that's the way it went at this year's cup final.
The FA Cup is the premier club cup competition in the world, the oldest and the most prestigious. For over 140 years, it has encapsulated everything that is great about the beautiful game. British Pathé gave the world the opportunity to see moving footage of this great tournament as far back as 1920. The first year the final was played following the end of World War I and predating the competition's move to Wembley. But to get a full picture of the tournament, we have to go back to the very beginning, and a meeting back in July 1871. This meeting, held in the offices of the Sportsman in London on the 20th of July, saw a proposal by the FA Honorary Secretary Charles Alcock stating that a Challenge Cup be established for the association clubs to compete in. 3 months later, the proposal was approved, and 1871-72 saw the first FA Cup contested, with Wanderers, the first giants of the competition, beating Royal Engineers by 1-0 in the final at Kennington Oval, with Morton Petto Betts scoring the first ever goal. Over the next few years, the trophy would move around among 3 teams, the 2 finalists from the inaugural final and Oxford University. Wanderers winning it an unprecedented 3 times in a row, a feat that has never been beaten. The Wanderers' domination was halted by the Old Etonians in 1879, and the FA Cup found its way to the trophy cabinets of Clapham Rovers and Old Carthusians before returning to the Old Etonians in 1882. In 1883, Blackburn Olympic became the first northern team to win the trophy. This would then be followed by domination of the tournament by the small northwest town. As the first of today's recognisable clubs brought the trophy home. Blackburn Rovers beat Queen's Park, the first and only Scottish club to reach the final, and would go on to win the trophy on 3 successive occasions, to tie the record set by Wanderers back in 1878. This then was followed by a domination of Midland clubs, as Aston Villa and West Bromwich Albion collected their first trophies, 2 teams who would continue to have a great pedigree in the tournament in the coming decades. By now, the Football League had been invented, and the tournament began to find its finalists coming from the professional league. Its first were the Preston North End Invincibles, who in 1889 crowned their league triumph with their first FA Cup trophy, the first ever league and cup double in football. Blackburn would again dominate the FA Cup in the following seasons, winning back-to-back trophies. But as in 1887, it was the Midlanders who would end the Blackburn domination, as first West Bromwich Albion, then Wolverhampton Wanderers, then Notts County, and Aston Villa were victorious. However, Aston Villa did suffer the humiliation of having the trophy stolen when it was exhibited in a local shoemaker's. Yorkshire had its first recipient in 1896, with the Wednesday, later known as Sheffield Wednesday, lifting the trophy, before Aston Villa were again victorious, getting their hands on the new trophy. However, this time they kept it for much of the following season in a bank vault. Villa were the second team, after Preston, to achieve the league and cup double. In the following years, the trophy would move around the country, but there were 2 victories for both Sheffield United and Bury in quick succession. For Bury, their only FA Cup final victories. However, their 6-0 result in 1903 is still the biggest winning margin in an FA Cup final. FA Cup heavyweights Aston Villa and Wolves would pick up further trophies, as well as Manchester City and Sheffield Wednesday, and another future FA Cup king, Everton, who claimed their first success in 1906. In 1909, the holder of the most FA Cups in the present day, Manchester United, won their first trophy. A comfortable, if unspectacular, 1-0 win over another club in their first final, Bristol City. The trophy would stay in the north as Newcastle, Bradford and Barnsley all tasted FA Cup success for the first time, before Aston Villa claimed the trophy again, for a record-equalling 5th time. The first piece of recovered film from the British Pathé archive relating to the FA Cup comes from 1914. The first-time winners, Burnley, are posing for photographs following their 1-0 victory over a Liverpool side that incredibly wouldn't taste FA Cup success until 1965. Sheffield United claimed their third FA Cup crown in the following season, but the outbreak of the Great War put organised football on hold until the end of the decade. The 1920 final was contested between the established Aston Villa and Huddersfield Town in their first FA Cup final. And for the first time, British Pathé cameras were there to capture the action. The teams entered the field. Aston Villa in the dark shirts led by Andy Duca, with Tom Wilson leading Huddersfield. Whilst the footage doesn't depict the final in Technicolor and the multiple angles of today's modern coverage, it is possible to get a feel for the sheer magnitude of the event and the number of fans who packed into the Stamford Bridge Stadium that day. The final went into extra time, where a corner was flicked into the net by Billy Curtin to win it for Aston Villa, for a record-breaking 6th time. 1921 saw Tottenham Hotspur etch their name on the great trophy for a second time. On this occasion, though, they were a fully fledged professional team after their giant-killing antics in the 1901 final. The atmosphere prior to the kick-off was one of celebration, as both teams' supporters flooded the streets around Chelsea Stadium. The match itself was played under torrential rain. Flowing football proved impossible, but Jimmy Dimmock was able to stay afloat long enough to seize on a loose ball to score the winning goal. Excellently depicted by this photo from the club's archive. The club returned with the cup to a hero's welcome, with thousands lining the streets, much like today, desperate to get a glimpse of their favourite stars. A new name was carved on the famous trophy in 1922, as Huddersfield Town went one better than 2 years before to lift the trophy. This footage of the team in training prior to the cup final shows there were few signs of nerves among the players as they prepared. The Battle of the Roses, as Pathé News cameras dubbed it, generated another huge crowd as buses of travelling fans made the long trip from Yorkshire and Lancashire to pack into Stamford Bridge. Coverage was beginning to improve, with 2 cameras filming the game from sensible angles. Huddersfield in stripes must have been pleased to have done their heading practice, with the majority of the game seemingly played in the air. The winning goal came from the penalty spot, after Tom Hamilton brought down Billy Smith. The England international dusted himself down and dispatched the decisive penalty. There was a grand occasion on the streets of Huddersfield as a marching band headed the parade of the trophy in an appropriately striped open-top bus, tailed by thousands of fans, before the winning team posed for photographs with the Mayor of Huddersfield. By now it was clear that the competition required a national home, and the new Empire Stadium at Wembley was nearing completion for the finalists of the 1923 FA Cup. The undertaking was remarkable. Upon completion, the ground would hold 127,000 fans, 40,000 more than the current state-of-the-art stadium of the 21st century. Bags of sand were placed on the steps of the stands to help simulate the expected load on the structure. But it was the human tests that offer the most fascinating insight into health and safety requirements of the mid-1920s. Test subjects were asked to simulate different crowd eventualities during a football match, including some rather surprising ones. The final was between Bolton Wanderers and West Ham United. Neither had won the cup before, and so fittingly, the new stadium would witness a new champion. Prior to the kick-off, the West Ham players took to the field to inspect the new pitch, a tradition that's still in effect today. The final was massively oversubscribed. The authorities, sure that the 127,000 would easily accommodate the demand, failed to initiate an all-ticket policy, and there were scenes of fans climbing the barriers and invading the pitch. Aerial shots helped to show the sheer scale of the crowd that packed into the stadium that day. The final is today commonly referred to as the White Horse Final, and these images give some indication why. As a solitary police horse tries to move the crowd off the pitch and onto the sidelines so the match could take place. The game kicked off 45 minutes late, amid incredible scenes, as thousands of fans lined all four sides of the pitch. The positioning of the goals helped to show just how close the fans were to the pitch markings. With just 3 minutes on the clock, David Jack slid in to put the Trotters ahead, and the result was put beyond doubt early in the second half by Jack Smith, securing the trophy for Bolton. The Hammers fans, though, were not downhearted and held their own homecoming, welcoming the beaten finalists back to East London. But it was in the northwest where the real party was, as thousands of fans lined the streets to welcome home their heroes in what was the most memorable final to date, and the beginning of a long love affair between the tournament and the country's national stadium. After the furore and extensive coverage of the inaugural Wembley final, it's disappointing to report there's no surviving film of the 1924 final and Newcastle's second triumph in the competition. What is available is semi-final footage of Newcastle defeating Manchester United by 2-0. Newcastle proving to be the more deadly in the penalty area, here clearing their lines and then heading in the winning goal to set up a repeat of the 1905 final and sweet revenge for the Magpies. The final itself was a wet one, often referred to as the rainy day final, which may go some way to explaining the missing film of the final. One of the big teams of the 20th century so far had been Sheffield United, who were winners for a fourth time in 1925, defeating Cardiff City, the first and only Welsh side ever to reach an FA Cup final. Another packed Wembley Stadium greeted the teams, who were presented to the Duke of York, who would later become King George VI. Sheffield United in the stripes were the quicker to settle into the pace of the game, and Fred Tunstall would eventually settle the tie to the delight of the Sheffield United fans, who invaded the pitch on the final whistle to witness Billy Gillespie lift the famous trophy. And the fans were out in force again as the trophy was paraded through the streets of Sheffield and presented for the cameras by the captain, Gillespie, and the manager, Don Nicholson. A repeat of the 1904 final 22 years on, the same scoreline, but this time a different winner, as Bolton became the kings of Wembley, winning for the second time in 4 seasons at the National Stadium. Manchester City were the first to enter the stadium, shortly followed by Bolton in the lighter shirts, as another capacity crowd looked on in anticipation. Manchester City seemed to have the upper hand in the early stages, with the Bolton goalkeeper being called into action on numerous occasions. But the tie would swing in the favour of the Trotters, who applied similar incessant pressure on the opposition goal, finally breaching the near impenetrable Manchester City goal as David Jack slid in to score his second FA Cup final goal and settle this tight contest. The crowds flooded onto the pitch to witness Joe Smith collect the trophy from the King for the second time. But this was just the start of the celebrations for the manager Charles Foyeraker and his men as they returned to the streets of Bolton and presented the trophy to the crowd and the mayor of the city, writing themselves into the record books of the town, the tournament, and football. Beaten finalists in 1925, Cardiff City were determined to create history just 2 years later and become the first non-English team to lift the ultimate prize in football. This was the first season that the FA introduced organised singing before the match, to a great reception from the crowd. Led by the conductor, Thomas Ratcliffe, the crowds belted out, "It's a long way to Tipperary," as well as Abide With Me, which is now synonymous with the FA Cup. With the pre-match entertainment out of the way, the teams entered the field, Arsenal in the darker shirts, and completed the formalities of the introductions. Cardiff players seemingly undecided as to whether the shirt should be worn in or out. Cardiff have become renowned as a tough-tackling, uncompromising team, and it showed throughout the match, including the goal when the Arsenal goalkeeper and a fellow Welshman, Dan Lewis, cracked under pressure from the Cardiff forwards and gave a Scotsman, Hugh Ferguson, an easy tap-in for what would prove the winning goal. The Arsenal team continued to bombard the Welsh side's goal, but the Bluebirds held firm to claim a famous and historic victory. The whole of Wales seemed to line up in the streets of Cardiff to welcome their national heroes home. They'd taken the cup out of England for the first, and to date, the only time in its history. It was a proud Fred Keno who lifted the cup in front of the expectant crowd. He, one of only 3 Welshmen in the starting lineup for Cardiff that day. After being a dominant force in the early years of the FA Cup, the name of Blackburn Rovers had become conspicuous by its absence. This would change in 1928, but only briefly, as Blackburn claimed their 6th victory and their first for over 35 years. Once again, the man in white led the masses in his customary exuberant style, before an equally over-the-top final was played out. Blackburn in the dark shirts took the field first and were quickly into their stride, scoring in the very first minute, but in controversial circumstances. The officially credited scorer, Rosekamp, can be seen pushing a goalkeeper in possession of the ball and into the net to put the Lancashire side into a 1-0 lead. They would get another 22 minutes later to put the tie beyond the pre-match favourites, Huddersfield Town. The Terriers had their fair share of attacks on goal and did get a goal back early in the second half. But Rosekamp's second goal of the game, and Blackburn's third, was not in any dispute at all, as he rifled the ball into the back of the net to secure the cup for the Rovers. The town of Blackburn was packed once again after the 35-year wait. A sea of onlookers celebrated in the streets and also in the stadium as the cup was paraded around Ewood Park for the matchday crowd. Bolton would wrap up the 1920s, becoming the undisputed kings of the decade, with 3 victories in 7 years, defeating first-time finalists Portsmouth. This was also an historic moment for British Pathé. The coverage of the 1929 final was the first Pathé News broadcast to feature sound. Its edition gives a flavour of the pre-match entertainment of the late 20s and the unmistakable noise of the football rattle which greeted the players as they took to the field. Once again, it was a bruising encounter, with goalkeepers not being afforded the support from referees that they get in the modern game. The deadlock was broken in the 79th minute when Billy Butler struck home a winner from the right side, despite the valiant attempts of the Portsmouth defender. With 3 minutes remaining, Harold Blackmore put the game beyond doubt as he hit the ball high into the roof of the net to crown Bolton FA Cup winners for a 3rd time. As you can see from the footage, it was still traditional for the winners to go up to the royal box first, before the losing team, but then not lifting the trophy until they'd made their way back onto the pitch. It was a familiar sight for the trophy as it made its way through the streets of Bolton. The players paraded the cup in front of their celebrating fans, but this would be the end of an era for the Trotters, as they would not make the final again until 1953. If the 1920s belonged to Bolton, then it could be argued that the 1930s was Arsenal's. Twice a winner, once a runner-up, and they kicked off the decade by beating Huddersfield Town, who were losing finalists for the 3rd time in 10 years. It didn't take long for Arsenal in the dark shirts to take the lead. In the 16th minute, Alex James, one of the great names of football at the time, hit a thunderous strike from inside the area, and the Gunners took a single-goal lead into half-time. Midway through the second half, the British Pathé cameras were able to shoot somewhat sinister footage of the German Graf Zeppelin hovering over the Wembley Stadium. But the sight of the hydrogen-filled transporter didn't distract the players. And just before full-time, Jack Lambert put the game beyond Huddersfield's reach. It had been a long time waiting for Arsenal to bring the cup to North London, and the sights in the streets were of jubilation, with Herbert Chapman writing himself into the history books for a second club, having already won the trophy with the beaten finalists Huddersfield in 1922. The Arsenal captain, Tom Parker, brought the cup onto the pitch for the league game against Sunderland, before the famous trophy was paraded around Highbury for the excited crowd. The North, South and even Wales had been parading the cup over a decade, leaving the normally dominating teams of Middle England in the shade. There was, though, a brief renaissance for the West Midlands in 1931. The final was vastly oversubscribed again, as tens of thousands packed into the national arena. West Bromwich Albion and the Stripes were the first onto the field, followed by their neighbours, first-time finalists Birmingham City. The game was quite open in the early stages, with both sides having opportunities to score. The goalkeepers once again getting some rough treatment from the attacking teams. The deadlock was broken by a prolific forward, Billy Richardson, who pounced on a loose ball and fired past the goalkeeper, to the delight of the Albion supporters. Birmingham then cheered their supporters, Joe Bradford bundling the ball over the line. But the Blues' euphoria was short-lived, as straight from the kick-off, Billy Richardson received the ball and snaked his way through a defence, still celebrating their equalising goal, to force the ball into the net and claim the win and the trophy for West Bromwich Albion. West Bromwich Albion returned to a hero's welcome, the club's third trophy in 7 final attempts. The Throttles were becoming one of the FA Cup heavyweights, and the town were in full appreciation.
And the players of the Albion team, I want to welcome you in the name of the West Bromwich townspeople here today. You have wrought a great victory. We are proud of you, and you have brought honour to our town.
Mr. Mayor, people of West Bromwich, the players and I are very grateful for the wonderful reception that you've given us today. We've worked very hard to get so far, and I think we thoroughly deserved it.
Herbert Chapman's Arsenal were back in the final in 1932, and the British Pathé cameras were on hand to check out their opponents, Newcastle United.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the players of Newcastle United Football Club, the players who have this season carried us through in league and cup competition until we're at the present stage. Newcastle previously won the cup in 1909 and 10, and in 1923 and 24. This year we hope to be again at Wembley and again win the Football Association Cup.
The final itself included commentary from British Pathé for the first time.
A long, strong centre. In it goes. And down goes Nelson. John scored.
Newcastle's equaliser was scored by Jack Allen, the first of his 2 goals in the match. Newcastle paraded the cup on the pitch to a crescendo of noise, and the captains were interviewed after the game.
Captain of a gallant team and a gallant captain, I congratulate you upon your magnificent success at Wembley. And you, Tom Parker, for a change, we have to sympathise with you. Still, you've had a wonderful run. I congratulate both of you.
Thank you.
And now, I'll leave it to you after the ball is over.
Well, Tom, I feel sorry for you, and it was a great game. And someone had to win, and I'm pleased to think that we're taking the cup up north again.
You're right, Jim. Someone's got to win and someone's got to lose. 2 years ago, I experienced your feelings, and I can quite imagine what they were like. But still, let's hope for a repeat next final when we shall meet again.
I hope so, Tom. Thank you very much.
Everton ended a barren run since their first FA Cup triumph in 1906 with the defeat of Manchester City. The 3-0 scoreline was the biggest winning margin since the outbreak of World War I.
In the beginning, the teams come out 2 by 2, a new custom, one of friendship. Players adjourn to the middle of the field, where they are received by the Duke of York, Sir Charles Clegg in attendance, also Sir Frederick Wall. Dean introduces his men. Then the officials, Eddie Wood, you see, of Sheffield, fine referee. And now over we go to the Manchester City side, with Cowan as captain, and now Cowan instructs the Duke as to the names and positions of his side. In the meantime, everybody keyed up, the sun shining. The toss means something because the winner will have the sun at his back. Dixie Dean wins the toss. He's in the white there. He wins the toss. He says, let's have the sunshine at our backs. And off they go with a fine pass to the right wing, but Stein makes the first attack. The ball runs as if it were going out, and he passes back to Thompson. Thompson lobs it over, and Johnson goes steadily on as though to score the first goal, but there's an offside decision. Some good passing by Everton, and some good defence by Curran, with Matt Busby stepping in. A pass from Dunn to Geldard. The linesman flagging for offside, so Langford has a quiet moment. Now then, another attack by Stein, and the ball goes out of play. Here you see Dunn chasing the ball, and McMullen chasing it outside. Hard lines, Jimmy. Some good heading, rather too much heading, if one might say so, in this game. Still more heading. Let's have the ball to the earth, please. And slow motion process showing a conglomeration of players and a collection of legs, all concentrating on one point. Geldard is going after the ball. His attempted centre hits a defender in the back. Here Johnson makes a beautiful flick from a corner kick, but the ball is cleared. Away they come again on the right, with McMullen helping the defence. Britton, a beautiful double back and a lob. Stein is the thorn in the Manchester City side, and there's Thompson making one of his sturdy tackles with a bad finish. There's Stein scoring the first goal. Whoopee, hands across the sea, and he might have been a points policeman. Away we go again. Sager makes a perfect leap and a clearance in spite of opposition. City's fullback clears to the right wing, where Toseland passes back to his partner, and there's a lovely lob into the middle where Sager makes another perfect catch. Confident, clean and convincing. Now Sager is thumping one-handed to make sure the ball doesn't go into danger. Brooke beat Britton and a corner arises. Johnson ahead, go ahead Johnson, against your old team. A lovely pass to Geldard, but nothing from it. A bit of hooking and a pass back by Tommy White to his goalkeeper for safety's sake. The second spasm. Manchester City on the attack for quite a long time, but lacking in finality. Britton, the outstanding halfback, has just cleared, and Cresswell has headed the ball. Thompson heading. There goes Johnson against his old friends, and the punt up to the right-hand side by Britton. Brooke centres too far by far, so that Toseland gets into a maze and is eventually quite covered up and smothered out. Still more heading. The game is getting more furious now. Manchester are all the while on the attack, or nearly all the while on the attack, but there's White using his weight, and Cook giving one of those mighty punts of his. Sager punches out again. McMullen is covered by two men, and thus that ends his chapter. Brooke is now the dominating force. He's the genius of the City attack, but he has no one to help him. Here's Brooke running into the corner and centering quite well. There's a definite foul. Now then you've got Brooke working hard and Everton players getting into each other's way. But Tommy Johnson is on the ball, steady against your old friends, you know. White heading perfectly and McMullen just shooting over.
Everton's defence being pressed, but it's still very stocky and steady. That is saving the game for Everton. Here's the masterpiece of Manchester. Brooks enters again in spite of the attention of two men, but Cresswell, old man Cresswell, covers the issue, and Britain, playing the bonniest game of all the halfbacks, lobs the ball forward again. McMullen now passes square for his partner, the irrepressible Brooke. And the ball is curled just over the angle of the bar. Quite a good effort. There's Dean scoring his goal. Langford lying flat on his face, a disappointed man in a disappointing team. Hard lines, Langford. Now meet the goal-getters, the three musketeers. Jimmy Stein got the first goal. He also scored at Leicester in the opening round. The next goal was scored by Dixie Dean, who gave a perfect display of headwork and leadership, and scored number 2. He also scored in the first round against Leicester. Bravo, Dixie. And finally, the third of the musketeers, that musket there, Jimmy Dunn.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very happy occasion, an all-Lancashire final tie. A cup final between two good sides. Dixie Dean, captain of the winning side, Everton, and Sam Carn, the trustworthy captain of the Manchester City side. An admirable sporting game between two good friends, friendly enemies, as it were.
Lancashire, here's to Lancashire. And may that cup stay in Lancashire. If Everton don't win it, may another Lancashire club win it. Here, here.
I'll second that, Dixie. We've got the cup in Lancashire now, and I hope the next Lancashire club that wins it is Manchester City, my club. Here's to Lancashire. And the city.
True to his word, Sam Cowan did just that, and once again led Manchester City out onto the Wembley turf in 1934. This time his team were victorious to keep the cup in Lancashire.
Here's Toseland, Manchester City's outside right, and Eric Brooke, outside left. Fred Tilson plays centre forward, whilst Bob Marshall is inside right. Sam Cowan is captain and centre half. Now here are Jimmy McLachlan, Busby and Bray. And last but not least, Frank Swift, the goalkeeper. This is Portsmouth. Thackeray is captain and left half back, whilst Rutherford is outside left. Eason, inside left, is a Scottish international, and Weddell plays centre forward. Jake Smith is inside right. He's an English international. So is Allen, the centre half. John Gilfillan, the custodian, completes the 11.
The final itself was nicely poised after Portsmouth, in the lighter shirts, took the lead in the first half. However, injury to Portsmouth captain Jim Allen proved crucial, Fred Tilson seizing the opportunity to score 2 goals in quick succession, and the cup belonged to Manchester City.
So after 30 years, the English Cup returns to Manchester. Aye, lad, it's been to London for that weekend, and it's back in Lancashire again now. All along the route, crowds turned out to cheer them. This is how Manchester received them. Over 1 million people greeted the team, and of course, cup and all. Many had walked for miles just to see what all this Wembley business really did mean, and they found out. Yes, what Lancashire doesn't know about cup football isn't worth knowing, and Cowan and his boys have just proved it. The Lord Mayor and Chief Magistrate is here to thank them too.
As the Chief Magistrate of the City of Manchester, and on behalf of the citizens of Manchester, I want to say that we feel proud of you and of your victory. and we feel proud to entertain you and welcome you back tonight. Mr. Cullen.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope it isn't another 30 years before we bring it again. I hope it's 3 and under 3. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to have brought the cup to Manchester. Thank you.
And in addition to all the others, I'd like to congratulate Cowan. Why? Well, I'm a Manchester man, that's all. And if they can do this next year and get league honours as well, hey, that'll be champion.
The 1935 final proved to be a titanic battle between a former heavyweight of the FA Cup, Sheffield Wednesday, and West Bromwich Albion, back there once again. Only in the last few minutes did the Owls secure victory in a match that looked destined for extra time.
It doesn't matter who are playing at Wembley in the cup final, the mighty crowd goes just the same every year. The tension and excitement of this very British sporting event are eloquently presented to you in this exclusive film by Pathé Gazette. Listen to 100,000 voices lifted up in community singing. Sheffield Wednesday in white shirts and West Bromwich Albion, who forsake their stripes for plain dark shirts, come onto the field. Mr. Fogg of Bolton, the man with the whistle, meets the two skippers, and Ronnie Starling wins the toss for Sheffield Wednesday. The start is sensational. There's no superstition about the cup final. Whoever gets the first goal wins the game. Within 2 minutes of the start, Sheffield get a goal, and you'll see it in slow motion. Starling wanders to the right wing, picks up a loose pass, and slips it to Palethorpe. The Wednesday centre forward slips in between the backs and baffles Pearson, the goalie, with a shot that looks quite easy. But the Albion are not at all put out by this setback. Their forwards get moving in line and are well supported by the halves. 20 minutes after the Wednesday's opening point, Boys, who played a brilliant game all the afternoon on the left wing, bangs home the equaliser. With the score at 1-1 after a really fine first half of good football, the Wednesday kick off after the interval, and the crowd are going to get a feast of goals that has not been served up in cup finals for many a year. Wednesday take the lead. The diminutive Mark Hooper shoots, the ball hits the post and cuts across into the net. West Bromwich again fight back and for the second time equalise. Sanford takes a shot that is deflected by a Wednesday back and the ball is in. The yelling crowd is getting thrills in plenty and the climax is near. Only 3 minutes to the end. Ellis Rimmer, Sheffield's left winger, who had scored in every round of the cup, gets his head to a pass from Sharp and scores. A minute to go, and again Rimmer scores Sheffield's fourth goal. Pearson will remember Wednesday every Saturday. Starling receives the cup from the Prince of Wales, who also presents the medals to the players of both teams. It's the finish to a thrilling afternoon's play. Cook goes to Yorkshire. It's many a year since Sheffield saw scenes like this. The great city of steel is overcome in a delirium of joy. Everybody stops work. 100,000 yelling, cheering Yorkshiremen pack the streets in a seething mass. The coup comes to Sheffield, and the victorious Wednesday players, displaying the cup from the top of their motor coach as it noses away through a solid phalanx of people, receive an amazing welcome. Talk about the cup that cheers, this one does cheer the whole of Yorkshire. The Wednesday players fight away through the crowd to the town hall, where the Lord Mayor gives Ronnie Starling and his boys a civic welcome.
Sheffield desires to show honour to the boys that have brought honour to Sheffield. Many welcomes home. Just tell us, Ronnie, what do you think of Sheffield?
Over the weekend, we have had many thrills, but I think this one, your wonderful reception, surpasses them all. I take this opportunity from the boys and myself of wishing you much happiness and thank you for the wonderful reception. Thank you.
One of the most famous clubs in English soccer and the present holders of the Football Association Cup, Captain Starling and trainer George Irwin, have led Sheffield Wednesday to do great things in recent years. And not only in recent years. Since the club was founded in 1870, it has won the Cup 3 times and been 4 times league champions. Up-to-date training methods is one of the secrets of their success. A shooting target for concentrated practice. Left half Burrows has a go. A Sutton man, he's been with the club 3 years. The throw-in is his strong suit. Amazing balance achieved by perfect body control. Centre-half Millership is the star dribbler. They ought to make him wear a bib. Left-back Catlin from Middlesbrough, the big man of the Wednesday's cast-iron defence, deals with a high one. His wife's given up trying to make an impression with a rolling pin. Goalkeeper Brown, 3 times an English international, the man who can hold the hardest. His upward punch is famous. Watch him use it in the cup final. And that's another one saved. Outside right Hooper scored the second Wednesday goal at Wembley. How he did it. Both feet may leave the ground, but his eye never leaves the ball. And this is the movement that led up to that goal kick. Captain and inside left Starling is more than a fine player, he's a born leader. At Wembley he led his men like a hero. He can kick straight and hard, and he keeps the other man guessing all the time. Centre-forward Palethorpe has been with the Wednesday only 12 months. When he takes a penalty, it's hard luck for the goalkeeper. Palethorpe scored the first goal in last season's cup final. Our slow-motion camera was there. And the ball is in with a bang, like it always is with Sheffield Wednesday.
Arsenal won their second FA Cup of the 1930s, marking themselves out as the team of the decade. But the footage available of the final is limited due to a dispute over terms between the Wembley organisers and the newsreel companies.
Meet the men who are drawing 100,000 today. Harry Hooper, Sheffield captain. Inside left, Jack Pickering. Left back, Charlie Wilkinson. Right half, Ernest Jackson. Centre half, Tom Johnson. Left half, Archie McPherson. Outside right, Harry Barton. Centre forward, Jack Dodds. Inside right, Bob Barclay. Outside left, Bert Williams. And goalie, Jack Smith. Arsenal captain, Alec James. Outside right, Joe Hume. Centre half, Herbie Roberts. Outside left, Clifford Bastin. Left half, Wilfred Copping. Centre forward, Ted Drake, little knowing that he's to be the hero of the day. Left back, Idris Hapgood. And goalie, Alec Wilson. And once again, all roads lead to Wembley. They say that 100,000 will pass through the turnstiles. And if anyone's got a ticket that he isn't going to use, a few thousand others will want to know the reason why. Every street is a moving stream of favour-wearing fans, mostly in a hurry. Wouldn't it be much nicer to go to the cup final like this? But by the time they get there, most people feel that the journey was like this. Meanwhile, at Heston, the newsreel cameramen are taking off in the machines that are to carry out the great air raid over Wembley. For in spite of being denied the freedom of the press, Pathé Gazette are out as usual to bring the match to millions who wouldn't otherwise have the chance of seeing it. And how's this for a kick-off? It's Gracie Fields, and our cameraman must have dreamt it. And here's safety first on the field. And now take your seat in the Pathé Autogyro and see Wembley as you've never seen it before. That's Mrs. Jones, second from the left. The fight is on. And we're facing the Arsenal goal, with Sheffield United attacking strongly in the great ding-dong struggle which makes up the first half. Meanwhile, one of our cameramen is trying to get in through the tradesman's entrance in disguise. For the first 29 minutes of the second half, it's the same story. The fierce to-and-fro struggle with neither side scoring. But at last, Bastin passes to Drake. Drake streaks through the Sheffield defence and Arsenal are one up. So the 1936 Cup final comes to an end. And Arsenal bring the Cup southwards for the second time in their career. And Pathé Gazette offers them its heartiest congratulations. Like a million ants, the huge crowd streams homeward. We might have known that there'd be a few football fans outside Islington Town Hall to welcome the victorious Arsenal team, come to leave their card on the mare. Alex James has brought the cup that gets the cheers, and the mare isn't the only one that's pleased.
On your behalf, I congratulate the Arsenal team upon their magnificent victory. 3 cheers for the Arsenal team! Hip, hip! Hip, hip! Hip, hip!
And then manager George Allison.
We're delighted to have won the cup, and I hope that next year we may go even better. If we don't win both the league and the cup, at least we'll win one.
They have a bit of a job to get back to their chariot. And then the cup is borne in triumph through the packed Islington streets. 11 good boys have come home with their prize.
A new name would be etched on the famous trophy in 1937, as nearly men Sunderland finally got their hands on the cup. Unfortunately, the dispute over newsreel rights that limited coverage of the 1936 final was again in force in 1937. So much so that only an official film of the final was available. However, by 1938 the dispute was resolved and normal newsreel service was resumed. And it would be Preston who would return to Wembley to compete for another FA Cup trophy, their second in as many years, and a repeat of the 1922 final against Huddersfield. This time the North West team would prevail. The streets and the stadium were packed once again as the two teams entered the field, Huddersfield in the stripes. It was a war of attrition in a game stretching into extra time for the first time since 1920. Both teams had their fair share of possession and the chances, and the game wouldn't be decided until the very last minute of extra time. The Huddersfield captain, Alf Young, upended George Much, and though still days from the challenge, the Scot dispatched the penalty. The Preston captain, Tom Smith, walked up the famous 39 steps to collect the trophy from the King and crown Preston FA Cup winners for the second, and to date, last time. 1939 was a special year for the FA Cup final, bringing alive the romance of competition that fans have come to cherish. Wolves, 5-1 on favourites to lift the trophy after scoring 11 goals in the previous 3 rounds and sitting second in the league, against a Portsmouth side languishing in the relegation zone.
More people at Wembley than ever before. They've jammed in a few more seats to bring it up to 100,000. And the King is here to greet the teams in the match that's supposed to be over before it starts. The experts are calling Wolverhampton Wanderers this year's wonder team. And apparently the only thing the experts are interested in now is by how many goals the Wolves are going to win. But it doesn't take the 100,000 long to find out how wrong the experts can be. Football is a wonderful game. The Queen is here too, to see Portsmouth in white shorts and the Wolves in the dark. And Guthrie wins the toss for Pompey. And from the kick-off, the experts must be holding their breath. For the boys from the Naval Port, who only a few weeks ago were fighting against relegation to the second division, are right on top. And mighty Scott, the Wolves' goalie, is as busy as a flea at a party. No score for the first 31 minutes. Then Morgan of Portsmouth kicks a long ball down the field to Anderson. Anderson to Barlow, who left the Wolves only 2 months ago, and Barlow turns the tables on his old team to put Portsmouth one up.
Flags flying in the Navy. After that, you'd think the Wolves would fight back, but they don't seem to have the chance, as wave after wave of the Portsmouth attack surges round the Wolves' goal. One minute from half-time and another Portsmouth onslaught. The ball swings over from the right and runs loose to Anderson. Anderson puts it just wide of Scott's right hand and makes it 2 up at half-time. So the Navy splices the main brace. The second half opens with sensation. Anderson kicks off, and within 30 seconds, Barlow drives for the Wolves' goal. Scott saves, but Parker rushes in to make it 3 for Pompey. And the Navy fires a salute. With 3 goals in hand, Pompey seem to be back on their heels, and the Wolves are beginning to howl round the Portsmouth door at last. And here comes the magnificent Wolves movement as Burton runs in, and Dorset sends over a superb cross shot to make it 3-1. The Navy's flags are at half-mast. That odd goal brings the crowd to its toes for some of the finest football ever seen at Wembley in a cup final. Keep your eye on Scott with the number 1 on his back in the Wolves' goal, or a series of saves with a touch of genius. But Scott can't hold off the mass attack forever, and Pompey get yet another. So the end comes with Portsmouth the cup winners by 4 goals to 1. They got to the final 10 years ago and were beaten. All right, pal, we know how many beans make 4. They got to the final 5 years ago and were beaten again. But the third time, well, you know the rest, as Guthrie comes up for the happiest moment of his life. We all know that the Navy is Britain's sure shield, but the sailors won't be on the water tonight. A treasure of sport takes its place with treasures of royalty. The FA Cup is presented to the Earl of Athlone by Mr. W.C. Kiln of Portsmouth, the holders. And now the Cup and Portsmouth Lucky Spats are to be on show at the exhibition of royal treasures. And if that isn't an honour for the national game, I'll eat my soccer boots.
World War II would force the suspension of both League and FA Cup competitions until 1945. Portsmouth held on to the Cup and is still the club to retain the trophy for the longest period of time. They kept the Cup safe at Fratton Park, despite German bombing raids aimed at the local harbour. The footballing landscape had changed when the FA Cup restarted in 1945-46. And this was evident with the 2 teams contesting the 46 final. Neither Charlton nor Derby had won the FA Cup before, and for Charlton it was their first time in the final.
From the Pathé newsplane, Wembley Stadium looks packed to capacity with a 6-figure up for the cup crowd as Derby County and Charlton Athletic wait to be presented to His Majesty the King. Introducing his team is Derby's skipper Jack Nicholas, the first soccer captain to have the honour since the cup final turnstiles last turned in 1939. Presenting the Charlton side is 6-foot skipper Don Welsh. Charlton's fans hadn't far to travel, but Derby sent a grand contingent to give the local boys a cheer. Charlton's Don Welsh won the toss from white-shirted Derby skipper Nicholas, but the real battle of the game didn't start till the second half. There was no score at the turnaround, but after that, things really began to hum. With a hatful of missed chances behind them, Derby got down to a win-or-bust drive, and watching them do it was Princess Elizabeth. Here comes goal number 1. Dally Duncan missed kicks, and Charlton's Bert Turner kicks through his own goal. A stroke of luck for Derby, it sent the crowd goal crazy. With a 1-0 lead, the Derby white shirts piled on the pressure. But within a minute, Charlton hit back and Bert Turner wiped off his slip-up with a free kick equaliser. This time, a Derby player knocked the ball into his own net. 1-1 and 5 minutes to go. And are the customers glad they got a ticket? Both sides played magnificent soccer. Here's Derby's Reg Harrison away in a grand burst. But Charlton's left half Johnson has him marked for a fine tackle and clearance. End of time and it's 1-1. And there's 30 minutes extra play and Derby gets away to an all-out left-to-right assault on the Charlton goal. The King and Queen and the Earl of Athlone watch a great cup final. And here's Derby's second, a picture goal by red-headed inside left Peter Doherty. Once in front, these boys take some stopping, and they're putting out the flags in Derby already. With a 2-1 lead, it's a new kind of Derby day, and here's another. Centre-forward Stamp nets Derby's number 3, and does it get applause? For the second half of extra time, Charlton defend the left-hand goal. And it's in again, with goalie Sam Bartram beaten after a grand dive. And every Derby hat goes into the air for a 4-1 victory. Beaten in 3 cup finals, Derby County knots their first win, and skipper Jack Nicholas gets a royal handshake and the coveted silver trophy. A great game, and a great team won it in football's best ever comeback to peacetime cup finals. Yes, Derby was proud of its cup-winning soccer team. When they hit the old hometown after their 4-1 Wembley victory over Charlton, Derby County got an outsized civic welcome. With a lorry doing duty as a triumphal chariot, a swirling crowd followed on in the city's biggest celebration since Victory Night. Three times losers in previous cup finals, the 1946 Derby County boys made no mistake this time. Half Derby turned out to cheer, giving the club its well-earned biggest ever crowd.
Charlton would return in 1947, this time against Burnley. And for the third time in 4 finals, the match went into extra time, in what was a goal-shy final.
Wembley Stadium and the 66th Cup Final. Charlton Athletic in white shirts and Burnley kick off. Football critics prophesied a battle of the defences, and that's the way it turned out. Burnley's half-back line, with skipper Alan Brown outstanding, holds fast against all Charlton's attacks. Now watch Burnley's Jackie Chew, number 7, break away, but left-back Shreve, number 3, is there to tackle him. The ball goes upfield to Chris Duffy, number 11, Charlton outside left. And here he is in a neat little ballet number with Burnley back, Arthur Woodruff. But Charlton are pressing hard. Watch Burnley goalkeeper Strong in this spectacular head-on picture taken from the other end of the field. This is Charlton's 4th Wembley appearance in 5 years. 12 months ago, the first peacetime final saw them lose to Derby County. So Charlton are not suffering from any Wembley nerves. 5 of their boys were here last year. Duffy has the ball again. He passes to Don Welsh, number 10. He shoots, but Strong is there to save. The second half, and both teams put on the pressure. But the defences are still way on top. Billy Morris, number 8, has a bang at goal, but Sam Bartram is safe. And now the Charlton attack is off again. Hurst, number 7, has the ball, but Burnley get it away. And again it's goalkeeper Bartram, this time with a save from Burnley's Harrison. The Lancashire forwards just couldn't get the ball past the Charlton keeper. With no score after 90 minutes, extra time is played. Last year at the Charlton Derby final, the same thing happened. An hour and a half of grueling, fast-moving football in brilliant sunshine has taken it out of the players. Duffy still has plenty of energy, but this time Woodruff beats the winger to it. Second half of extra time and still no score. It looks like a replay with only 4 minutes to go. Now the ball is in the Burnley half. There's a goal-mouth scramble for the ball. Duffy gets to it and slams it into the goal. Slow motion sees the cannonball goal this way. And that was the end. A 1-0 victory snatched in the last few minutes of extra time gives the cup to Charlton Athletic. Welsh gets the trophy from the Duke of Gloucester. With Bartram carrying the plinth, the London team follow their leader. Not so long ago, they were in the 3rd division. They made headlines in a 2-season climb into Division 1. Now they've notched one more club record by winning their first FA Cup. And that's the way it went at this year's Cup final.
"1948 was a vintage year for Wembley. It staged the Olympic Games and one of the greatest FA Cup finals, when Manchester United came up against a Blackpool side inspired by 2 Stanleys, Matthews and Mortensen.
The All-Lancashire finalists take the field at Wembley. Manchester United in dark shirts, Blackpool in white. It's the North's big day. Sunshine warms the stadium and 100,000 spectators settle themselves for an afternoon's enjoyment as the King greets the players with a friendly handshake. Manchester kick-off. Renowned slow starters, their match-winning attack seems to have lost the rhythm that has brought them along the road to Wembley. A close duel between Manchester's Johnny Carey and Blackpool's Walter Rickett, number 11, is highlight number 1 in a thrill-packed match. Highlight number 2 comes when Stan Mortensen is tripped in the penalty area and referee Barrick awards Blackpool a spot kick. As the crowd rise to cheer, Eddie Shimwell drives it home to give the Seasiders the lead. Manchester's Jack Rowley, walking the ball into the net to equalise, provides highlight number 3. Blackpool, settling down quicker than Manchester, are overcoming their Wembley nerves. From a free kick and a seemingly impossible angle, Stanley Mortensen whips in a goal to give Blackpool the half-time lead. Blackpool kick off, confidently hoping that their 2-1 lead will bring them football's most coveted prize. Just to make sure, their skipper, Harry Johnson, number 4, tries a long shot that doesn't come off, and the ball trickles out. But now Manchester's attack, which has scored 95 goals this season, swings into its best style. From Johnny Morris's well-placed free kick, the fans cheer Jack Rowley's headed equaliser. With the score at 2-2, Blackpool are again on the attack. Stanley Matthews, who has been shut out effectively, beats Manchester's Johnny Aston, but the Seasiders' finishing is poor. Charlie Mitten, number 11, starts off United's winning attack, and from Rowley's pass, Stan Pearson scores the goal that gives Manchester the cup. The King hands the silver trophy to skipper Johnny Carey. Their 4-2 victory, snatched in the last few minutes, gives Manchester United the reward they richly deserve.
Wolves had flattered to deceive in 1939 after being odds-on to lift the trophy. They weren't prepared to make the same mistake twice and defeated a Leicester City team appearing in their first final.
Wolves' Billy Wright and Leicester's Norman Plummer head the All-Midland finalists onto the Wembley turf for football's Game of the Year. There's a friendly handshake for the players from the Duke of Gloucester, representing the King, and Prince Philip, and then they're ready to go. Princess Elizabeth is in the royal box as 2nd Division Leicester, in white shorts, the Davids who knocked out so many Goliaths, start off at top speed. They're not afraid of the wolf, however big and bad he's cracked up to be. In this goal-by-goal special edition, Pathé News brings you the full story of how, when giant killing was the fashion, Wolves, the hottest favourite in years, did come out top in the end. At first, Leicester do the attacking, but Billy Wright's men, cool and confident, have everything under control. And here comes the first nail in Leicester's coffin. Pye sends the ball to Hancock's. The winger sends it back, and Pye heads it home. In a match like this, it's the first goal that matters most. And Wolves, inspired by skipper Billy Wright, number 6, are there again, puffing and puffing at Leicester's front door. The two Jimmies, Mullen and Dunn, are at the top of their form, and only a brilliant save by goalie Bradley keeps them out. Mullen on the move again. He shoots, and it goes over for a corner. Johnny Hancock takes the kick. It comes over squarely. It looks perilous for Leicester. They just can't get the ball away from the danger zone. Billy Wright sends in a shot. It's only half cleared, and Jesse Pye bangs it home. With Leicester 2 down at half-time, few of the 100,000 crowd thought they could ever stage a comeback, but they reckon without little Mal Griffiths. With the ball seemingly tied to his feet, he runs through the Wolves' defence like kids through a sweet shop. A pass to Chisholm. Goalie Williams parries the inside forward shot, but Griffiths is there to send it back into the back of the net. Wolves manager Stan Cullis is getting anxious now, for this is more like the old Leicester that humbled mighty Pompey. The second division boys are giving more than they get when fate deals them a sudden, bitter blow. From an acute angle, Ken Chisholm nets the ball, but the referee rules him offside and disallows the goal. Down sink Leicester hearts, and Wolves can think themselves lucky to have escaped. They show their appreciation by some pretty cross-passing, which Leicester can only clear with difficulty. And again the Wolves are on the prowl. Smooth first-time football splits the Leicester defence wide open. The ball goes to Sammy Smythe, number 8, and it's curtains for Leicester as the Irish one smashes it home. The two skippers shake hands, and another Wembley's over as Princess Elizabeth presents Billy Wright and the triumphant Wolverhampton team with football's most coveted honours. Their average age 24. These young Wolves prove that England need have no fears about the future of football. With men like Billy Wright and his team, Bill Shorthouse and all, winning the Magic Cup, England's soccer glories are in safe hands. The Cup has found a new lair. The Wolves, with skipper Billy Wright clutching the coveted trophy, return in triumph to their hometown. Well played, the boys in black and gold, is the cry taken up by the 100,000 crowd as the victory procession moves slowly through the densely packed streets of the Midland city. Not for 40 years, the last time they won the Cup, has Wolverhampton seen anything like this. With the freedom of the city as good as theirs, manager Stan Cullis, who when a player was one of England's greatest, pays tribute to the fine spirit of the Wolves.
I want to introduce to you probably the most popular man in Wolverhampton.
Billy Wright, a grand captain, a fine player, a wonderful clubman, did probably more than anyone to bring the cup to Wolverhampton. Wright knew no wrong, and his is a welcome richly deserved.
Mr. Mayor, Lady Mayoress, ladies and gentlemen, well, I would first of all like to thank you very, very sincerely on behalf of the players and myself for the wonderful reception you've given us this afternoon.
With a team like this, it's even betting that the cup stays at Wolverhampton for another year. Football can do with more men like Billy Wright.
The kings of the 1930s, Arsenal, were back in the final in 1950, against the Liverpool side still to win the FA Cup. Questions, though, were being asked about the ageing Arsenal side, whose average age was 32. But armed with legends of the game like the two Compton brothers and Tommy Lawton, the Londoners prevailed.
April weather ushers in soccer's day of the year. Onto the Wembley turf march Arsenal and Liverpool, two sides rich in tradition, to do battle for the Magic Cup. The King, accompanied by the men who govern Britain's most popular sport, is there to meet them and wish them luck. Arsenal are first, Jimmy Logie, George Swindon, and the hero of Highbury, Reg Lewis. Now it's Liverpool, Jimmy Payne, Ray Lambert. And then the preliminaries are over. The stage is set for the high spot of the year. Phil Taylor beats Joe Mercer to the toss, and white-shorted Arsenal kick off, attacking the goal to your left. A greasy ball, intermittent rain, the open pitch, plus the tension of this big occasion. It all adds up against good football. Yet here are these 22 men playing soccer to delight the connoisseur. Inspired by skipper Joe Mercer, number 6, Arsenal go all out for that first vital goal. Mercer is here, there and everywhere. It's his pass that sends Dennis Compton away, and from that shrewd move comes one of the highlights of the game. A slide rule touch of Arsenal juggling that finally ends with the ball going just wide. A Compton corner leads to Arsenal's first goal. This is how the cameras see the move, that is to set Highbury alight. Mercer is the man behind it. His lob goes to little Jimmy Logie, who passes it through for Reg Lewis to wham it in. And now it's Liverpool on the attack. Spion Cop is set a-roaring as little centre goes just wide of Stubbins' head. Arsenal's escape and one up face the second half, happy in the knowledge that is the first goal that counts in a match like this. The men of Anfield don't think so and throw everything up for it with Billy Liddell, that flying Scotsman, the spearhead of their attack. Liddell's centre looks like bringing the equaliser, but Swindon is there first. A near thing, that, for Arsenal. Back come Arsenal, their wing halves working like supermen. This time Dennis Compton is sent away, but goalie Sidlow is all ready. What a ding-dong struggle this is. First one way, then the other. Liverpool there again, with Bert Stubbins, number 9, first into the fray. Down comes the Arsenal's Iron Curtain, and another Anfield attack comes to naught. Mercer is at it again, and another goal is on the way. From Peter Goring to Cox, on to Lewis, and it's there. Two down, Liverpool never give up trying, and no one works harder than Billy Liddell. His brilliant move leads to another corner. It looks like Anfield's last chance as Payne's kick comes sailing in, and in the scramble that follows, the ball does everything but cross that goal line. And that's it. Another final is over, and the sporting world joins in Wembley's tribute to Joe Mercer and the men of Arsenal, winners of the coveted cup for the third time in 14 seasons. Much of the credit must go to that Highbury team spirit, which transformed 11 footballers into a side well worthy of soccer's highest honour. There are no prizes for guessing the happiest man in Britain this week. It's Joe Mercer, footballer of the year, and now cup holder for the year. At a West End restaurant, Arsenal throw a cup-winning party. Film star Anna Neagle is among the 500 guests who give an ovation to Joe Mercer, Arsenal skipper and footballer of the year. Of Liverpool sportsmanship, Merseysider Joe says,
Nice to win. Very nice indeed. But it's a greater feat to lose in a sporting spirit, especially when you're losing such a wonderful trophy as this. And I'm proud of my Merseyside connections and birth, the way those boys took their defeat and the way they came up to us, and from the bottom of their heart, thanked us and acknowledged that we were the best side on the day.
From a West End dinner, the Gunners move on to Highbury. Led again by Joe Mercer and the Magic Cup, with Leslie Compton and brother Dennis there too, Uncle Alex James and all, they're off on a victory drive through their home borough Islington. And the thousands who couldn't get in to see their triumph at Wembley turn out to give them the welcome of the year. At Islington Town Hall, an exuberant crowd gives the heroes of Highbury the unofficial freedom of the borough. To speak for them comes the skipper, London's most popular Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my team, I would like to thank you all for the wonderful reception you have given us. And if we've brought honour to the borough, we are very thankful indeed.
The FA Cup team of the 1950s was without doubt Newcastle United. They would win the trophy 3 times in the decade. In their first visit in 1951, they defeated Blackpool, losing finalists for the second time in 4 years.
It's an all-Northern Cup final as Blackpool and Newcastle United take the field at Wembley. Newcastle, playing in their famous Magpie colours, have twice won the Cup at Wembley. Blackpool have yet to succeed. Now the King takes his place in the royal box with the Queen and Princess Margaret. The preliminaries are over, and with the 100,000 crowd keyed up to fever pitch, Blackpool kick off and the 1951 Cup final is in full swing. As the famous forward line gets moving, it looks as though they're going to try to overrun the Magpies in the first few minutes for that vital first goal. Alan Brown had to stand down, but Amateur Slater in his place just misses with a grand shot. Blackpool's plan is to spearhead through Matthews. And here's Stanley with one more chance to get that medal he wants so badly. He beats Corbett and passes forward. Mortensen runs after the ball, but Brennan brings him down just outside the penalty area. A near one for Newcastle. Matthews takes the free kick, but the ball is cleared. Another free kick for Blackpool. Stanley doesn't waste any time. Perry chases the ball. It's on the line, but he flicks it back. Fairbrother dives to intercept. Now what'll he do? He throws a long pass to his captain and Harvey dribbles upfield. Robledo collects and passes to Walker. This looks dangerous for Blackpool. As the return comes across, Farm runs out and collides with Robledo. And that shows the spirit of the game as they shake hands. Now here's Milburn racing down through the middle. As Farm comes out, he shoots into the net, but the whistle's gone for offside, and it's no goal. At the other end, Perry sends over a high corner kick. Mortensen jumps up and heads past Fairbrother, but Cowell heads off the line, and Newcastle breathe again. Half-time comes, and there's still no score. Newcastle kick off to start the second half, and it looks as though we're going to see something better after the scrappy first half. From the clearance, Newcastle set up an attack. Blackpool are playing the offside trap, but Milburn's through. Shinwell gives chase, but he can't catch Milburn, and the centre fires in a shot, but Farm saves. Stanley looks anxious. He's playing a terrific game. Again, he beats the defence. Across goes a lovely centre. Slater shoots, but the ball whizzes past the post. Matthews again. He passes to Mortensen, and the old firm get going. Stanley's going through like an eel. He's drawn the defence. Passes back to the centre, and the whole Blackpool side comes up. But Newcastle clear. The ball goes to Robledo. There's a gap down the middle. He passes to Milburn. The offside trap's failed. Blackpool appeal, but Milburn runs on and shoots. And it's a goal. Newcastle are 1 up. Matthews again. He's trying every trick he knows to get Blackpool going. Even the Newcastle side wish he could have a cup winner's medal so long as they win. Now Newcastle are on the go again. Taylor passes back. Milburn is there, and he fires in a terrific shot. Farm's beaten all the way, and Newcastle are 2 up within 10 minutes of the resumption. Blackpool can't get going properly. Must be Wembley nerves. Here, there and everywhere, it's Matthews, but still no score. And here's the wizard again. He's through, he shoots, but Fairbrother saves. Newcastle are playing a fine game. No safety first for them. They're still attacking as the whistle goes for full time. And the Geordies have won the cup for the third time at Wembley. It's been a good, clean game. And there's a hearty round of applause from the losers as Newcastle's captain Harvey receives the cup from the King. Again, it's a runners-up medal for Stanley. But it's well done, Newcastle, for a brilliant, well-earned victory. If Jackie Milburn did the trick with his fine goals, it was a grand all-round performance that sends the cup to Tyneside.
The Magpies were back at Wembley the following year, becoming the first team of the 20th century to retain the cup, this time beating the winners of 1950, Arsenal.
Here they come, Newcastle and Arsenal to battle for the cup. It's the big North-South final everyone would have picked for a real tussle, and that's how it turned out. It's a 100,000 full house with a lot of Geordies to cheer skipper Joe Harvey and the Magpies to keep the cup they won last year. They look to Jackie Milburn to do the trick again. Mr. Churchill represents the Queen, who is in mourning. For Newcastle, George Robledo has scored 5 cup-tie goals. Now veteran Joe Mercer introduces the Gunners. Injuries gave them a lot of worries, but they're fighting fit now, including Ray Daniels with his plastered arm. It's good to see the Premier fit again after his chill. Now Newcastle break away, eager to get started. Mr. Churchill goes to his box where Mr. Attlee greets him, and the scene is set for the 1952 Cup final as Newcastle kick off. They're trying to win the Cup 2 years running, which hasn't been done in 60 years. But watch what happens now. Holton throws in for the Arsenal. Lishman, with his back to the goal, gets the ball and kicks over his head. And it only just misses. Tough luck for a sensational try that would have shaken Newcastle. Now Newcastle attack. Walker gets the ball. Looks like the Geordies are moving now. Jackie can't get through. Arsenal are giving him no rope. A back pass to Fuchs, who first times into the centre, but skipper Joe Mercer is there to cope. Now it's Arsenal attacking. They're fooling experts who said the Magpies would walk it. Lishman passes to Holton, who's making his first cup appearance, but Brennan robs him and clears. Back come Newcastle. It's turning into a real thriller. Hello, Daniels has taken a knock on his broken wrist, but he nods okay, just as well. Arsenal also have right back Wally Barnes injured, but here's a lovely movement, and it's Lishman again. Joe Harvey and Ted Robledo, brother of famous George, complete the clearance. It's a terrific game. You don't expect this good stuff in cup finals. There's too much at stake. Away go Arsenal again. Haven't seen much of Cox so far, but here goes the centre, and Simpson has to dive to foil, and Arsenal rush. At the other end, Walker gives Swindon something to worry about. Again, he's beaten, but the ball's headed off the line, and at half-time, there's no score. After such a sizzling first half, sympathy swings to Arsenal as they resume without Wally Barnes. But this is the cup, and Newcastle attack as Milburn beats Forbes and Joe Mercer, but his pass is intercepted by Don Roper, who now partners Lionel Smith at back. Soon, to the surprise of all, it's Arsenal attacking, though they're a man short. This is one of the greatest finals in memory. Beautiful football, plenty of punch and thrills at both ends. Milburn to Robledo, but George can't get there, and the ball just misses. And here's another terrific moment in front of the Arsenal goal. Just look at them all on the ground. It looks like a battlefield, but nobody's badly hurt. They're putting every ounce into it, and it's a good, clean game, a credit to two grand teams. Now Ted Robledo sends Mitchell away. Watch this run of Mitchell's. But he's held it just too long and the way is blocked. Arsenal's tackling and covering has been a sight to see. They're playing a wonderful game, especially the cast-iron defence, even without Barnes. Along comes Don Roper to clear, and away go the forwards again to worry Simpson. Even Newcastle supporters are surprised. Now Mitchell gets a chance, but Swindon saves just under the bar. We'll be talking about this final for a long time. Only 6 minutes to go, and it looks as though they'll need extra time. Away go Newcastle for another try. Looks like business this time. Mitchell draws the defence and lobs over. George Robledo heads, and Newcastle have won the cup for the 2nd year running. Arsenal are first to congratulate their conquerors on a great triumph. There's a huge cheer as they walk up for the cup. And another for the gallant losers. But now it's skipper Joe Harvey receiving the cup from Mr. Churchill, who for once doesn't seem to know the drill. Here they come. They had a much tougher game than they expected, but the cup is on its way back to Newcastle. And here's the picture the whole North's waited to see. Well done, Newcastle. You've done it again.
The FA Cup final of 1953 is the greatest FA Cup final of them all. It had everything. 2 great Northwest sides battling it out, both with legends of the game in their lineups and producing the ultimate spectacle. It would be 3rd time lucky for Stanley Matthews and the Seasiders.
The Duke of Edinburgh meets the boys from Blackpool at Wembley before their cup final battle with Bolton Wanderers. From the Royal Box, Her Majesty the Queen watches the Duke shake hands with the white-shirted Wanderers, who are making their 4th appearance at Wembley. Here are goalkeeper Stanley Hansen and Bolton's inside left Harold Hassel, ready and waiting for the great kick-off. Princess Margaret takes her seat, and Blackpool, facing a slight headwind, kick off. Right away, Blackpool are on the attack, but a Bolton player gets to it and tries to swing play back to the other end. Now Bolton get going smoothly. Hassel collects and passes. The ball goes to Nat Lofthouse. He shoots. Farm fumbles, and it's a goal. Bolton have drawn first blood within 90 seconds. Bolton keep up the pressure, and Blackpool defence seem far from confident now. But Shimwell gets it clear of the goal and manages to force a way through the attackers. Blackpool back, Garrett sends it up to Lofthouse, who shoots, but it hits the upright. In comes Bill Moyer, but he too cannot penetrate the defence. Moyer, Fenton and Goalie Farm scramble for it, but Fenton gets it out of danger. Blackpool swing into action again, and are soon down by the Bolton goal. Stan Morrison has a slam, and in it goes. Blackpool have got the equaliser. Now Stanley Matthews takes over. He passes, but there's no goal this time, as goalie Hansen clears it away and starts a Bolton counter-attack. Eric Bell, who injured his leg earlier on, gallantly struggles after it and manages to pass it back to Langton. Langton shoots, but Farm makes a good save, and Blackpool breathe again. Bolton have looked the better team right the way through the first half. In the Blackpool goal, Farm faces a shot from Langton. He and Lofthouse miss, and there's another one. Bolton are 2, Blackpool still 1. Into the second half, and Blackpool begin to show some of the skill we expect of them. Stan Matthews is after it, and off he goes with a dazzling display that proves he's as good as ever he was. As he centres, Mortensen gets out of the way to let Perry shoot, but it's wide of the net. Now the Wanderers get their forward machine moving again. From the right wing, Douglas Holden centres, and despite his injury, Eric Bell heads it in for Bolton's 3rd goal. 3-1, looks all over for Blackpool. As unworried as ever, Matthews sends over a beautifully placed centre. Goalkeeper Hansen tries to check it, but Stan Mortensen forces it in. Bolton 3, Blackpool 2. Mortensen's hurt his right leg, but wild horses couldn't keep him off the pitch at this stage of the game. Douglas Holden leads the Wanderers on an offensive. Up near the goal mouth, Lofthouse gets on with the good work. Lofthouse centres, but goalie Farm is there to deal with the situation this time. His clearance upfield sets his teammates on another attack. There's a foul. One of the players took quite a knock, and the ref awards Blackpool a free kick. Mortensen takes it. Wham! He's done it. It's in. Blackpool and Bolton are on even terms with 3 goals apiece. Matthews again, giving the game everything he's got. In the Bolton goal, Hansen gets ready for work. The great little wizard has it again. A flick to centre finds Perry, who crashes it home into the Bolton net. Blackpool 4, Bolton 3. There's no doubt about it now. Matthews, recently ignored by the England selectors, is the man of the match. What a great reception he gets from all at Wembley as the whistle goes. Matthews, in his third cup final, is the hero of the day. Her Majesty the Queen rises to greet the two teams and to award the cup. And here come the winners, gallant Blackpool, who turned what seemed defeat into one of the most dramatic victories ever seen at Wembley. Their captain, Harry Johnston, receives the most coveted football trophy of them all. A royal congratulation for Stanley Matthews and a winner's medal at long last are fitting rewards for the most dazzling sportsman in world soccer. The Queen waves a last farewell to the crowds as Harry Johnston and Stanley Matthews take the cup to Blackpool.
11 men come back to Blackpool to one of the greatest welcomes ever accorded a football team. Yes, they're the Blackpool boys who won the match of the century at Wembley against Bolton Wanderers. Heading towards the tower, the procession continues its triumphal journey. 100,000 loyal fans give a cup winner's reception to Harry Johnston and his team. But there's a special cheer for man of the match, Stanley Matthews. The coach arrives at Blackpool's Town Hall, and 15,000 people surge forward for a closer glimpse of their heroes. Harry Johnston, complete with cup, is followed by Matthews and the rest of the gallant 11 to the gaily decorated Town Hall, where the Mayor makes an official speech of welcome and congratulates the team on their magnificent achievement. The crowd roars for Matthews, at long last a holder of a cup winner's medal. Modestly, he replies.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like my name to be associated with Harry. And I do want to say what a wonderful reception you've given us. And I also want to say that I am told that by one or two people that I was the match winner. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that for the simple reason we have here 11 match winners.
Already, the team have vowed to do their darndest next year to keep the cup in Blackpool.
Try as they might, though, it will be their northwest rivals, Preston North End, who made it to the final in 1954. But it was West Bromwich Albion who would triumph in another goal-scoring final.
The calendar says it's cup final day, so once again Wembley Stadium opens its gates to 100,000 fans for the highlight of the year's soccer season. It's a clash between two giants of the north, West Bromwich Albion in the striped shirts and Preston North End. Before things get going, West Brom's captain Len Millard meets Arthur Luty the ref and Tom Finney, his rival captain. From the royal box, the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret watch West Brom kick off into the sun. Despite the lack of rain, the legendary Wembley turf is almost perfect. Ronnie Allen heads for the Preston goal, but George Thompson easily keeps the net clear. Now West Brom's forwards get moving. Good, down-to-earth stuff, this. Nichols receives, then out to the wing for Lee to take over. Preston's right back Cunningham can't stop the attack and Thompson has to take over again. West Brom, who suffered 5 defeats in their last 7 games, seem to have turned over a new leaf. Certainly they seem to be showing slightly better form than their rivals. During the first half, all-out efforts by both teams' backs blunt many forcing moves. Tom Finney, number 7, lends a hand. Away go West Brom. Their fans are on tiptoe as Lee forces it past Cunningham to Allen. A quick side foot shot, and Allen puts it in the net. West Brom 1 up. Quickly Preston kick off. 1 down after only 20 minutes. They're after the equaliser at once. Preston's Willie Forbes centres. Angus Morrison is there, and he's scored. 1-1 now, both goals within a minute. Back come West Brom to hammer away at Preston's goal. Lee tries the shot, but the defence balk him. The ball goes to Tommy Docherty. Up to Finney. So far, the West Brom boys haven't let the Preston plumber show what he can do. But now, in a dazzling display that recalls Stanley Matthews last year, he's away up the wing. There's no more scoring up to half-time, so play resumes with the scale still evenly balanced. West Brom are soon in their stride again. Kennedy stops Wayman, and with centre-half Dugdale to help him, fights to clear the West Brom goal area. A quick through pass sends Preston away again. Wayman has the ball. West Brom appeal for offside, but on he goes to score Preston's second goal. As Wayman's teammates congratulate him, their opponents protest to the ref, but there's nothing doing. Preston are 1 goal ahead. A free kick gives Preston fans further hope. As the ball is headed to him, Bob Foster shoots, but Saunders leaps to save. West Brom are on the move again. Preston's left back, Walton, nearly puts it into his own net, but Thompson stops it. A narrow squeak, that. Griffin takes a corner for West Brom, and up goes Thompson again. He's earning his keep in this match, but he can't relax yet. Here come West Brom again. Barlow has the ball, but Tommy Docherty brings him down in the penalty area. The ref doesn't hesitate. Ronnie Allen takes it, and in it goes, 2-2. West Brom keep up the pressure right away with nice, easy on-the-eye football. Ronnie Allen, up to his roaming tactics, takes over on the wing. About 20 minutes to go, and West Brom's John Nichols clashes with Thompson. Nichols took quite a knock, and he'll have to go off for a minute or two. As he waits for his trainer, up comes Ronnie Allen to help, and he's limping from an earlier clash. West Brom are still fighting hard and giving Thompson plenty to worry about. Maybe they'd have topped the league if they'd played like this in the last few weeks. Thompson goes back to his goal as Griffin comes racing in. And it's a goal! Not just any goal, but the one that wins West Brom the match with only 2 minutes of play left. In the centre of the field, the two teams meet. Victorious West Bromwich Albion and gallant Preston North End. One last formality remains for Captain Len Millard to receive the cup from the Queen Mother. West Bromwich Albion, the team that just failed to bring off the double, take home the coveted football trophy for the 4th time in their history. We hardly need to tell you what this is all about, for you don't get crowds like this more than once a year. Yes, it's the Cup, and the victorious 11 who won it bring it back in triumph to their hometown, West Bromwich. Mounted police join in the fray as the crowd surge around the coach when it finally arrives at the town hall. The captain, Len Millard, and the goal scorers, Ronnie Allen and Frank Griffin, come in for a special cheer. Len Millard makes his way to the dais with the cup. Wild enthusiasm from the thousands below greets him and his teammates. Len Millard, who captained West Brom to a 3-2 win over Preston, says he and his boys are determined to bring the cup home again next year.
Newcastle completed their domination of the decade in 1955, defeating Manchester City by 3-1 and becoming the first club in the history of the competition to compete in the final on 10 occasions.
The highlight of the soccer year, the FA Cup final, finds Manchester City taking the field at Wembley against Cup specialists Newcastle United. 100,000 have come to watch, including Her Majesty the Queen, who is greeted by the Duchess and Earl of Athlone. Manchester skipper Roy Paul spins and Jimmy Scowler wins the toss to give Newcastle the best of no slight breeze. The City in white shorts kick off and the game of the year is on. Among those playing in the cup final, the first German to do so is Bert Trautmann in City's goal. Newcastle press quickly and inside right Jackie Milburn forces City's left back Little to give a corner, all he could do. Newcastle's outside right takes it and the ball sails goalwards. Milburn heads and it's a goal, a beautifully timed header, and within 1 minute from the start Newcastle are 1 up. The City fight back as soon as play settles down again after that dramatic start, but goalie Simpson runs out to lift it from Fagan's head and foil the raid. Newcastle now and their forwards switch positions as they attack down the right wing. Centre forward Keeble, now outside, sends in a nice through pass. White chases, but Paul beats him and slides it back to Trautmann. Princess Margaret is there with the Queen to watch the worst moment of the match. The City's right back Jimmy Meadows is having a tough time marking winger Mitchell. He slips and tears a ligament. He beats the ground with pain as City fans realise that this is no slight injury and that for the rest of the match their team will have to play with 1 man short. But now those men intend to play. In a spirited attack, Paddy Fagan sends a long cross-field pass to Revie. Back it goes to Barnes as the halves follow up in support. The right half promptly sends it on to Revie again, but now the Newcastle defence have closed in and the raid fails as Simpson gets in and clears. For a while, Newcastle get well on top and Trautmann has to leap for it. Now he has to dive for it. Trautmann owes his place in British football to the fact that he came here as a POW. He's certainly playing a great game today. A sudden reverse and the City get that ball upfield to the delight of their fans. But Johnson delays his shot and Simpson gets there. The 10 men press and Hayes crosses for Johnson's equaliser. There was no delay in that flying header. He certainly made amends for his loss at that open goal. 1 each at half-time. City are in trouble in the second half with Trautmann leaping to it again. When they do get the play, the City show the effect of a man off. The well-drilled Newcastle defence have little trouble in sending Scowler away with it again. While Trautmann gets ready, White centres and the ever-dangerous Mitchell whips in to receive. He runs it on and scores from an almost impossible angle. So Newcastle have the lead again, 2-1. A pity they're playing a depleted team, for Newcastle are showing up very well. Stocko passes to Casey, who carries on working it upfield as the Newcastle forwards sweep down on the City goal. On the attack, the Newcastle forwards find those open spaces. Mitchell shows superb ball control as he manoeuvres into position. His play is worthy of Matthews himself as he prepares for his shot at goal. Fingertips deflected, but Hannah crashes it home. 3-1. In a match like this, that could be a decisive lead. It was Hannah's goal, but Mitchell made it possible. As 10-man Arsenal did 3 years ago, the City fight back. Casey colliding with Revie is injured and he's on the ground as the battle for the ball goes on, but he recovers later. Back in the City half, Mitchell is on the ball again. Critics call him the man of the match. He centres, but Trautmann runs out and collects a lovely piece of anticipation. Still Newcastle, and just before the end, a last shot at goal as Trautmann dives, but it goes wide. In the hands of the Queen, the Cup, the most coveted trophy of them all, as Scowler leads his 3-1 winners up to the Royal Box. A great moment for the Newcastle fans. As Scowler said afterwards, the Newcastle team were proud to have won, but sympathised with Manchester in losing one of their players. In return, City captain Paul said, "We were unlucky, but the better team won." Cup winners 5 times before, Newcastle United have done it again. A fine team, they deserve it.
Home with the FA Cup are the Wembley heroes, and crowds pack the streets of Newcastle to give the team a real hero's welcome. The drive to their football ground at St James's Park is a triumphant procession. A proud moment indeed for Newcastle United, a football club with very humble beginnings on Tyneside. A proud moment too for Captain Jimmy Scowler as he holds aloft the trophy which is known to millions simply as the Cup. More crowds are there to cheer Scowler and his teammates at the football ground. All Newcastle seems to have turned out to show the home side what support they have today. Disappointments are forgotten in this great moment of triumph. One by one, the victorious 11 men are cheered, with a special ovation for popular forward Jackie Milburn as he takes up the cup. Jackie has his own way of replying before Scowler speaks.
We left Newcastle, shall we say, last Thursday, not Thursday, Thursday week before. And we had no intentions of coming back to Newcastle unless we come back with this cup.
Manchester City, like so many teams before them, would quickly have the chance to avenge their defeat as they won through to back-to-back finals. This match, though, will be remembered for the incredible exploits of the City goalkeeper Bert Troutman, who, after a challenge with Birmingham's Peter Murphy, unknowingly played the last 17 minutes of the match with a broken neck.
It's the Cup final, the greatest match of them all. This year, a tale of two cities, with white-shirted Birmingham hot favourites against Manchester, last year's runners-up. 100,000 people cheer the Queen as she enters Wembley's Royal Box to watch the season's crowning battle. Birmingham skipper Len Boyd tosses with Roy Paul before one-armed referee Alf Bond. Boyd wins and chooses to play with the sun, so Manchester kick off. Birmingham's inside left Peter Murphy starts an attack which sweeps to the Manchester goalmouth and straight into the arms of Bert Troutman, one of the world's greatest goalkeepers. Now Manchester attack. Don Revie passes to outside left Roy Clark. Clark centres again to Revie, who flicks it back to Joe Hayes. Hayes shoots and it's in. Only 3 minutes gone and the favourites are one down. Birmingham's defence have Wembley nerves and are marking badly. Manchester press their advantage. Once again the ball goes to Roy Clark. Right back Jeff Hall challenges him. Clark passes inside and is ready for the return pass. He centres again and Hayes and Boyd jump for it. Bobby Johnson has it. Ken Green gets it back. But Gil Merrick isn't caught this time. Now Birmingham are beginning to find their feet. Though when Troutman misjudges and gives them an opening, there's no one to follow it up. Birmingham attack again. Eddie Brown to Noel Kinsey, who bangs in the equaliser. Second half, and it's still anybody's game. Manchester taking a free kick. A goalmouth tussle and the defenders kick it clear. Left winger Alex Govan has dropped back to collect it and he starts a counter-attack. Troutman dives at Eddie Brown's feet and takes it away. Minute by minute the tide is turning. And now Manchester City are in possession most of the time, weaving skillfully through the Birmingham defence. Bobby Johnston pushes through to Joe Hayes, but goalie Gil Merrick manages to stop the rush. Bobby Johnston again. He kicks to Jackie Dyson and Merrick's beaten, but Jeff Hall clears it. Left winger Roy Clark sent it again and Merrick makes a double save. Don Revie leads another Manchester attack. Revie, who wasn't in the team till 4 hours before the kick-off, is proving a tower of strength as centre-forward. His attack gives an opening to Jackie Dyson, who shoots, and it's a goal! So it's Manchester 2, Birmingham 1. The Manchester boys are getting right on top of the game, and their opponents are obviously tiring. The Birmingham defence clears, but Bobby Johnston picks up the loose ball. And Bobby wriggles through for yet another goal. Manchester 3, Birmingham 1. Birmingham counter-attack desperately, but Bert Troutman pounces like a cat. And again. But what's happened? Troutman's down. He's injured. Teammates help Troutman to his feet. He tells the trainer he's all right, but the crowd can see his neck is hurting badly. Manchester don't want to give Birmingham a chance to worry the injured goalie. Birmingham rally their remaining strength for an attack. Over Dave Ewing's head, and Troutman's game as ever. Injured or not, he's determined to pull his weight. He's up, and Birmingham's Eddie Brown makes sure he's okay. Back to his goal and ready for more. But it's the Birmingham goalie who's got to worry now as Manchester sweep forward yet again. Dyson beats Johnny Newman and races for the goal. Smith can't stop him, and he chops the ball back to Johnston. Johnston shoots, a near one for Birmingham. And that's time. Manchester supporters go mad with excitement, and no wonder. United hold the championship, and now City have the cup. A spectacular double, magnificently earned. Now Roy Paul takes the precious cup from Her Majesty. Once again, the experts have been proved wrong, and splendid teamwork and just that extra ounce of stamina have beaten the favourites and brought home the cup. Manchester has down tools to a man to welcome home the City team after their brilliant 3-1 cup victory over Birmingham. For the Cotton City has brought off the double. United are league champions, and City have won the cup. And who's going to work on a day like this? The team reached the town hall, where a civic welcome awaits them from Lord Mayor Tom Regan. But the crowd don't want speeches, they want their hero, Bert Troutman. Bert can't get a word in either.
Quiet, quiet, quiet. Quiet!
It's a long and nerve-wracking road from the first round to a Wembley triumph, but a homecoming like this makes it all worthwhile.
Aston Villa thwarted Manchester United's designs on the double after the Busby Babes secured their second league title in succession at a canter in 1957. This was also the first time Pathé News had covered the final in colour, adding another new dimension to the viewing experience, and over 10 years before the final was broadcast live in colour.
Manchester winger Johnny Berry beats his man and cuts across to pass to Taylor. Taylor moves in, but goalie Nigel Sims dives at his feet. Villa stage one of their lightning counter-attacks right into the Manchester area. The ball comes from the wing to Peter McParland, who heads. Ray Wood jumps for it, and they bring each other crashing down. Both men seem to be in pain. Referee Frank Holtas calls for the trainers. McParland's only shaken, but Wood's taken a really bad knock. He has to leave the field on a stretcher. With only 7 minutes gone, the worst possible luck for Manchester United. They battle nobly on and try to start an attack, but it's heavy going with only 10 men. Jackie Blanchflower takes over at goal, and the Villa soon give him plenty of work to do. But McParland's shot misfires. Crowther beats Bobby Charlton, races on to meet Edwards, and he's beaten him too. Danger for Manchester again, but Jackie Blanchflower's playing as though he'd been in goal all his life. Tommy Taylor has it, and Manchester are on the move. No sign of Wembley nerves about these boys. In spite of his injured jaw, Ray Wood's back in play, taking the right wing for the time being. To help him out, Manchester concentrate on the left till he finds his feet. But their attack is handsomely held by goalie Sims. Villa skipper Dixon loses it to Bill Whelan, and Roger Byrne gets it away. A long one into the Villa goal mouth. Taylor's there, but he stopped, and Nigel Sims pounces on it safely. Half-time and no score either way. Everyone in the huge Wembley crowd, from the Queen to the oldest fan, is tense with excitement. As Villa kick off for the second half, it's still anybody's game. For the first few minutes, Ray Wood is off the field again, and Villa's extra strength carries them forward. Danger for Manchester, but McParland's header hits the post. He tries again, and Blanchflower stops it. United hold their own till Wood returns to the right wing. And once again at full strength, They sweep down on the Villa goal, but Sims takes it beautifully. Now Villa start to put on the pressure. Jackie Sewell passes out to the left wing. Bill Fuchs gets it away, but the winger recovers and steals it back. Blanchflower collides and the ball goes loose. Manchester try to clear, but Villa's winger Leslie Smith stops it. Out to Johnny Dixon, who passes to McFarland, and Blanchflower hasn't a chance. 1 up for Villa. From a free kick, Manchester nearly equalise, but Edwards slices his kick. And a second attempt by David Pegg goes wide. Now it's Villa again, inspired by their 1-goal lead against the team everyone said couldn't lose. The ball goes out to the right wing, where Manchester skipper Roger Byrne tries hard to stop it. But the winger flicks it past and the attack is on. A hot shot hits the post, then McFarland bangs home the rebound. Villa's supporters go mad with joy, but Manchester haven't given up the fight. They succeed in forcing a corner, and from Tommy Taylor's header, Sims concedes another. Into the centre, and it's the same again. Duncan Edwards takes it. And Taylor finds the net. A well-deserved consolation prize for Manchester United. But that's how it stays, and it's skipper Johnny Dixon who leads victorious Aston Villa up the steps to the Royal Box. The Queen shakes hands with Dixon and presents him with the most precious trophy of the soccer world, the Cup itself. It's a record-breaking day for Aston Villa, and although Manchester United were disappointed after a gallant fight, at least they can say they lost to the first club in soccer history to win the FA Cup 7 times. It was the day Birmingham fans had waited for since 1920. Villa were home with the cup, on top of the world again after a generation in the soccer doldrums. Probably 100,000 enthusiasts cheered the victorious players on their way from the station to the civic reception at the Council House. What a homecoming it was. Victoria Square was jammed with thousands who could hardly believe that their dream had come true. Those who remembered the last time Villa won the cup never thought it would be 37 years before the famous Claret and Blues brought it back again. But the trophy was here, thanks to the great players who so deservedly wear the colours of Aston Villa.
The 1958 FA Cup final was overshadowed by off-pitch tragedy. The Munich air crash of the 6th of February and its aftermath overshadowed the whole of football. However, Manchester United did compete and, to the delight of the nation, progressed through to the final after beating Fulham 5-3 in an epic semi-final.
100,000 people in weather that's more like summer than spring pack Wembley Stadium to watch the biggest game of the year, Bolton Wanderers in the dark shorts battling with Manchester United for the FA Cup. On the perfect turf, the teams line up for presentation to the Duke of Edinburgh. Matt Lofthouse presents the Wanderers, and then under the eyes of Matt Busby himself, United skipper Bill Fowkes presents the team which, after the Munich tragedy, very few people expected to reach the final. United kick off with the sun but against the wind. Little Ernie Taylor dribbles away and passes, but the ball goes loose. Bolton right back Roy Hartle clears and Ray Parry passes it on. Goalie Harry Gregg jumps and nearly loses it. Bolton winger Douglas Holden kicks upfield. Parry heads and Gregg misses, but sends it for a corner, a near one that. But Dennis Stevens comes to grief. Free kick against United. In it comes, Gregg jumps, but he's down, and there's a nasty moment for United before Ronnie Cope gets it away. Bobby Charlton beats Higgins. Taylor shoots, And a beautiful save by Eddie Hopkinson. United are soon sweeping back to worry him again, but nothing seems able to pierce that Bolton defence. Back and half-backs work smoothly together, and the Manchester attacks break against them like waves against a rock. And time and again, defence turns into attack, but Harry Gregg's found his form and holds them off. So the second half starts with Bolton still only one up, but pressing hard and giving Gregg little peace. The Wanderers' experience is telling over United's enthusiasm, and Manchester seem to be finding it difficult to work as a team. Brilliant individual efforts peter out through lack of support. Now Bolton winger Birch has it, but Alec Dawson, switching wings again, gets it away. Dawson to Charlton. Charlton passes. Back to Charlton, who shoots, but it bounces off the upright into Hopkinson's hands. Hard luck, Manchester. That was Bolton's closest shave yet. Nat's charge seemed fair enough, but it's floored Harry Gregg, and play is held up for a minute or two while the trainer attends to him. It's an anxious moment, especially for Matt Busby. But there's no serious damage, and Harry's on his feet again. A corner. Up go the heads, and it's obvious that Gregg's recovered. Good win to Violet, but it's out of play. Webster runs in and shoots. Hopkinson can't hold it, but Higgins tips it away. And still it's the same story. The Manchester forwards get moving often enough, but they just can't push an attack home. And again. Bolton attacking on the right wing. But this time it's the Wanderers who miscalculate. Hello, Stevens has been knocked out by a collision with Webster. But once again, no real damage. A genuine accident, just one of those things. Only seconds to go, and Bolton, sure of victory, stage a final offensive, which very nearly makes it 3-0. But there's the whistle, and Bolton Wanderers have scored the 4th cup victory of their history. It's a proud Nat Lofthouse who receives the precious trophy from Prince Philip, for not only has Nat skippered the winning team, but he's scored both goals himself. Still, he'd be the first to admit that it was brilliant teamwork that did it. And as for United, runners-up for the 2nd consecutive year, hard luck, but it was a gallant fight. No Roman emperor returning with his army from a successful campaign ever had such a welcome as Nat Lofthouse and his triumphant team bring the FA Cup home to Bolton for the first time in 29 years. Nobody thinks of working at a time like this. The whole of Bolton's out on the streets to cheer the conquering heroes home. When the team reached the town hall, it's just like the brave days of the 20s when the Wanderers won the cup 3 times in 7 years. Perhaps this is the beginning of another run of victories. Everyone in Bolton believes it is anyway. It's some time before skipper and champion goalscorer Nat Lofthouse can make himself heard, but Nat doesn't give up easily.
On behalf of the lads and myself, thanks a lot. Thank you.
5 years ago, the Wanderers came home from Wembley after losing narrowly to Blackpool, and the town welcomed them back with kindly sympathy. No need for sympathy today.
Forest and first-time finalist Luton Town brought to a close a decade often referred to as the golden age of the FA Cup. And you can see why. Stars like Matthews, Lofthouse and Milburn, incredible stories like Troutman's injury, the Busby Babes, and United's amazing FA Cup run after Munich in 1958, and much more besides. All help to explain why this tournament is held in such high esteem.
Wembley and sunshine was the perfect stage for the greatest game of the year. The Duke of Edinburgh, newly home from his world tour, greeted the finalists Luton Town and Nottingham Forest. There was an atmosphere of excitement such as only the cup final produces. 100,000 people saw Captain Sid Owen and Jack Burkitt exchange banners under the eye of Her Majesty. Luton kicked off, playing from right to left, wearing light shirts. From the start, Forest seemed much more at home in the great stadium, taking the ball into the Luton goal area. Quigley got in a shot which Ron Bainham was lucky to clear at the second attempt. At the other end, a Luton attack was foiled by left half Jack Burkett. In goal, Chick Thompson showed signs of Wembley nerves, but Burkett cleared. Forest centre-forward Tommy Wilson cleverly put the ball out to his wing. Stuart Imlach passed to Dwight, and it was in the net. Notts were a goal up in 10 minutes. What a wonderful start. An early goal is a great tonic in any match, nowhere more than in the cup final. Notts attacked again. Before Bainham knew it, Wilson headed the second goal. No wonder Forest were jubilant. In 14 minutes, they were 2 goals up, and they didn't intend to rest on their oars. Dwight was tackled by right-back McNally. To Nottingham's dismay, he was put on a stretcher. So, after little more than half an hour, Forest were reduced to 10 men. Wembley Cup final history was indeed repeating itself. Now, if ever, Luton had a chance to draw level. They put on the pressure, and Forest were lucky to escape at the expense of a corner. This was the most anxious moment Billy Walker's men had had so far, but they survived till half-time. Forest supporters were in high fettle when play was resumed and Forest kicked off. They led 2-0, but it was noticed that Roy Dwight was still off the field. He was out of the match with a broken shin bone. But Nottingham weren't content with defence. Straight away they attacked, and Luton goalkeeper Ron Bainham had to clear. It was only a brief respite. Forest, inside left Billy Gray, began another attack. Centre-forward Tom Wilson headed to Imlach. It brought no reward, but it did show that the depleted Forest were as full of fight as ever. The question was, could they keep up the strain? Luton, outside left, Tony Gregory made ground and put the ball dangerously into the middle. A Luton header was intercepted, fortunately for Forest. Is the leadership okay, Monty? Notts goalkeeper Chick Thompson saw danger coming on the Luton left. Centre-half McKinley conceded a corner. Left-back Ken Hawes put the ball across the goal, and left-half Dave Pacey beat Thompson with a great shot. How the Hatters cheered. Only 1 goal behind now. It put new heart into Luton. Thompson saved, Bingham robbed MacDonald, only for Pacey to shoot wide. Again Bingham centred. Great chance for Luton here, but again Chick Thompson got the ball away. The whistle went for time. Nottingham Forest had won the cup. Skipper Jack Burkett led his team of 10 men to the Royal Box. It's 61 years since Forest won the cup before. What a triumph for him and his brilliant team, but what a tragedy that Roy Dwight wasn't there to receive his medal. To win the cup is a great feat at any time. To win with 10 men is an epic achievement.
After the unfamiliar FA Cup finalists of Nottingham Forest and Luton, the 1960 final brought together 2 of the early superpowers. Both Blackburn Rovers and Wolverhampton Wanderers were competing in their 8th final, and this would be a 4th cup victory for Wolves.
Managers Duncan and Cullis led Blackburn Rovers and Wolverhampton Wanderers onto the Wembley turf. It was like midsummer as Bill Slater spun the coin. Ronnie Clayton guessed wrong, so Wolves had choice of ends, for what it was worth. Playing left to right, Blackburn kicked off, and the match for the most highly prized trophy in the whole realm of sport was underway. A week ago, Wanderers had hopes of the double. Burnley stole the league championship from under their nose, but as they attacked and tested Harry Leyland, Wolves were determined on an all-out effort to take the cup back home. A header by Broadbent went over the bar. Narrow escape for Blackburn. Rovers inside right, Peter Dobing soon showed the form that makes him an under-23 international. He seemed to have a scoring chance, but Finlayson cleared. It was evident that it would have to be a very good shot indeed to beat the Wanderers goalkeeper on this afternoon's form. Leyland saved cleverly from Des Horn, Wolves South African outside left. After 41 minutes came tragedy for Blackburn. Their left half, Mick McGrath, put through his own goal. Wolves fans were jubilant. Blackburn supporters thought the goal very much against the run of the game. 2 minutes later, Rovers suffered sheer disaster. Left back Dave Whelan broke his leg. There really must be something about this Wembley turf. This was the 7th serious injury in 9 finals. Wolves kicked off in the second half, leading 1-0. Blackburn were reduced to 10 men, a handicap rarely overcome in a big match. Leyland fumbled and Wolves centre-forward Jimmy Murray netted. Before Wolves fans realised it, the goal was disallowed offside. After that let-off, Blackburn took up the attack. Blackburn pressed again, but Finlayson was safe as a rock. Wolves captain and centre-half Bill Slater was fouled. The referee gave an indirect free kick. Rovers, with only 10 men, found the going heavy. Outside left, Des Horn tried to beat the defence all by himself, and nearly did. Now Dealey had a try and scored. Two goals down, Blackburn seemed in a hopeless position, but still had a lot of good Lancashire fight left in them. With luck, they might have scored in a storming attack on Wolves' goal. The irrepressible Dealey was the biggest headache that Blackburn goalkeeper Harry Leyland had in this phase of the game. And what a headache. The little winger now got Wolves' third goal. At the final whistle, Dealey deserved his congratulations. Wolves had won 3-0, and Bill Slater led his men, a proud captain indeed, to the Royal Box. From the Duchess of Gloucester, he received the cup. Footballer of the Year, Bill Slater, had now achieved a captain's highest ambition. Congratulations to this wonderful club, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
And so say all of us, was the verdict of Wolverhampton people when their heroes brought the cup home next day. It was cheers all the way from the station to the town hall. 11 years ago, Billy Wright came back with the trophy, and this makes it the 4th time Wolves have won it. Outside the town hall, they could hardly have squeezed one more into that 100,000 crowd. This is the year in the footballing life of Bill Slater, a triumph at centre-half, an inspiration as captain. Bravo, Slater and his Wonder Wolves.
Since the inaugural season of the Football League, only 2 clubs have completed the double of League and Cup, and both of these were in the pre-20th century. The first club in the modern era to achieve this seemingly unachievable feat was Tottenham Hotspur, under the stewardship of their manager, Billy Nicholson.
There's a magic all of its own about the Cup final, and this time it was a super final. For in this match at Wembley depended the double. Could Spurs become the first team this century to win both League and Cup? That was the question in the minds of all the 100,000 in the great stadium as they ended the community singing. The preliminaries over, the teams took the field. Leicester City on the left in tracksuits and league champions Tottenham Hotspur. City's captain, Jimmy Walsh, presented his team to the Duchess of Kent, who was deputising for the Queen. Spurs waited for their turn. A nerve-trying time this for all the players these last few minutes before the game began. Danny Blanchflower, one of the most attractive personalities in the game, introduced Spurs. In charge of the game was referee Jack Kelly, a Lancashire man at his best on a big occasion. Walsh made a wrong guess, so Blanchflower won the toss and earned the right for Spurs to play with the breeze behind them. Victory for Spurs would make this an historic final, a landmark in soccer history. McIlmoyle kicked off for Leicester. The great game began. Spurs in white shirts kicking from left to right. Incidentally, quite an ordeal for young McIlmoyle, brought in at the 11th hour at centre forward for Leicester in place of the experienced Ken Leake. On City's right wing was the sparkling Howard Riley. He attacked confidently, only to be robbed by a Spurs defender. The classical style of the champions was soon in evidence. A well-placed centre found White, but the inside left shot over. Allen tried his luck with no better effect. Wembley finals have a history of accidents. Spectators feared the worst when Spurs right-back Baker fell and lay still. The 100,000 were relieved a few moments later when it was seen that he was not seriously hurt. For 7 finals have been marred by injuries since the war. And then, to everyone's dismay, Leicester's right-back Chalmers was on the ground writhing in pain. He was a passenger till late in the game when he went off altogether. Could any team, even Leicester on top form, possibly hold Spurs with only 10 men? Meanwhile, Dyson shot tamely. Officially outside left, Dyson was evidently enjoying himself on the right. He passed to Jones. A goal! To Spurs' dismay, referee Kelly ruled it offside. Though spirited attacks were made by both teams, neither defence was penetrated. The scoreboard remained blank when the whistle blew for half-time, signal for the guardsman to take possession of the field. The play of both sides livened up considerably after the interval. The injured Chalmers was still playing, hobbling about it outside left. No wonder some people are once more demanding that substitutes should be allowed in the final. Spurs outside right, Cliff Jones, was more than once the victim of his own speed. This time the ball went to Dyson. That dynamic midget smartly got his head to it. Over! Corner to Spurs. Dyson took the kick, but nothing of any use resulted for Spurs. Leicester's fighting spirit won admiration everywhere. Thousands began to ask how the game would have been standing at this stage, but for Chalmers' injury. Suddenly, Bobby Smith seized his chance. Goal! For Spurs, that goal was just what the doctor ordered. Again, they attacked. Leicester weren't in the least downhearted. With a good shot, Riley narrowly missed. Now Riley took a corner. Brown easily saved. An anxious moment in the City's penalty area. Spurs' unrelenting pressure brought reward again. The ball was centred. Dyson headed a great goal. And still, Leicester were undaunted, though they were 2 goals down with a very slender chance indeed of drawing level. Dyson tried again, almost on full time, but Banks had positioned himself perfectly. And there it was, the match winner. Spurs had won the cup 2-0. Danny Blanchflower must have been the proudest footballer on earth as he ran up to the royal box to receive the cup from the Duchess of Kent. Spurs had won the fabulous double. In recent years, Wolves, Albion and Manchester United have all come within an ace of it, and all have failed. funny winning the cup with young supporters to contend with. For Jimmy Walsh and his men, there were only losers' medals. But what a game they'd played. Sumpoil. It's 64 years since the last time the double was won, and in these days of strenuous competition, most people thought it never would be won again. So in Spurs' dressing room, there was every excuse for jubilation. Danny Blanchflower and his men have earned the right to be called the team of the century. Champagne on the house. Congratulations all round. They reckoned that fully 100,000 people turned out to welcome triumphant Tottenham Hotspur back home with the FA Cup. That's enough for any other team. But Danny Blanchflower's Super Spurs brought back the League Championship Cup as well. Whether the Wonder Boys of White Hart Lane are or are not the team of the century can't possibly be more than a matter of opinion. But it's results that count. And the plain fact is that Spurs and nobody else this century have achieved the double. The Mayor and Mayoress of Tottenham were at the Town Hall to do the honours on behalf of a borough bursting with pride. Danny held the cup, the Mayor the other one.
I always thought there was very many people interested in football, and I always thought that football was a very important game, but I never realised until today just how important it is. And I am very pleased that we have won the double this year, very pleased because we've pleased you. And like the Mayor, I'm very happy it happened in my reign of office.
Now a word from Bobby Smith.
I don't know what to say, really, but honestly, this is a great thrill of my life. And I'm glad I left Chelsea to come to Tottenham to get the double.
Not content with winning the double, Tottenham returned to the Twin Towers a year later to claim back-to-back trophies. Only the second club in the 20th century to do so. This truly was Tottenham's decade.
Is it really going to be the final of the century? That is the question on the lips of the 100,000 enthusiasts packing Wembley Stadium. Upon football's biggest occasion, the seal is set by the arrival of Her Majesty. A cherry-red ensemble very much taking the eye. Now these two great teams come onto the field in the calm, almost formal way which is part of cup final tradition. Spurs confident of retaining the cup, Burnley all out to foil them. Referee R.J. Finney calls the captains together. Danny Blanchflower on the left and Footballer of the Year, Jimmy Adamson. And Jimmy performs a captain's duty by winning the toss. Though at Wembley on a calm day, that's not much advantage. The game is on, the match with 22 players, all of the highest standard. What a dramatic start. The game is only 3 minutes old when, from the head of Bobby Smith, the ball is at the magic feet of Jimmy Greaves. He half loses control, regains it, and flashes it into the net. Spurs are stimulated by their early goal, trying not to let the Burnley defenders get over the shock. Already the final is fulfilling its promise. It's quality football the teams are producing on this historic turf. As the first half progresses, both goals have narrow escapes. The brilliant forwards of each team make dangerous attacks, but get the ball into the net, they cannot. "45 minutes of some of the best play Wembley's ever seen pass all too quickly, and still there's no further score when it's half-time. Spurs lead 1-0. Teams come onto the field. Spurs on the right. Only 1 goal down. Burnley have no reason to be despondent. This time the Lancastrians kick off, straight away getting into their stride with the cultivated football they were playing in the closing minutes of the first half. And dramatically as the game opened, so the second half begins. Slow motion lays bare action which was almost too quick for the normal eye to follow. Burnley left winger Gordon Harris passes to Jimmy Robson. Between Brown's feet, it's in the net. Burnley have drawn level. Now it's anybody's match. But the cheers of Burnley fans hardly die down when drama piles on drama. That superb player, John White, crosses the ball to the feet of Bobby Smith. Spurs have the lead again. Burnley show their class and fighting spirit by refusing to be downhearted by that Spurs goal. There are still 40 minutes of play left. More than time for them to equalise and then go on to win, if fate is kind. But there's no flagging on the side of Spurs. The lightning feet of Cliff Jones spell danger for Burnley. But this time, fortune favours the Stars of Lancashire. And so it goes on. Brilliant play from which more goals could easily emerge at any moment. Only 9 minutes of play remain now. Medwin's shot is handled by centre-half Cummings. Penalty against Burnley. Blanchflower himself takes the kick. It seems that Spurs really have the game in the bag now. 3-1 in the lead and only a few minutes to go. It's all over. Spurs have won 3-1. For the second year running, Danny Blanchflower has the honour to lead his cup-winning team up to the Royal Box. Her Majesty congratulates him, returning to the keeping of Tottenham Hotspur, the most coveted of all sporting trophies. So Spurs equal the record of Newcastle United, the only other club to win the cup twice running this century. There's royal sympathy for Jimmy Adamson and his men, perhaps the best team ever to lose the final. But it's Blanchflower's moment, Spurs, as they display the cup to their wildly excited fans. In the dressing room, it's champagne all round. What a team these Spurs are. Fabulous last season as winners of the double, and now the cup is theirs again. A day to remember. Not even Cliff Jones ever thought he'd have a champagne shampoo.
A bus with a load of heroes, cup heroes, Tottenham Hotspur riding back with a trophy. The route from Edmonton Town Hall to Tottenham Town Hall. The fans and mascots out in force. Danny Blanchflower and his men promised they'd bring the cup back to Spurs headquarters, and they've been as good as their word. The open-top bus was hired from Brighton. There aren't any left in London. It was all they could do to move it as it neared the town hall. The mayor, town clerk and other officials were tickled pink to be doing Sunday duty. These amazing Spurs, the double last year, now the cup for the second time running. Manager Bill Nicholson deserves a lot of the credit. Tottenham's proud of them all.
Just 5 years after the Munich air disaster, and Manchester United were back in the FA Cup final. This time, they would end victorious after the back-to-back defeats of 1957 and 58.
100,000 people up for the cup. Gate receipts, £89,000, an all-time British record. In every way, a great occasion. It's Leicester City who have won through to the final by sheer teamwork against Manchester United, that galaxy of stars who have often disappointed but who today believes their renowned manager, Matt Busby, on the right, will dazzle the football world. In the middle, a famous trio, Noel Cantwell, left, of Manchester United, Ken Aston, an outstanding referee, and Colin Appleton, spinning the coin and winning the toss for City. David Hurd kicks off. Manchester United in red shirts, Leicester City in white. The cup final has begun. This event, which in English football outshines all else, league, championship or internationals. And it's Leicester City on the attack now. Mike Stringfellow in possession. So let slow motion show how this dangerous winger compels Gaskell to concede a corner. The corner is taken from the right, and again the action is emphasized by slow motion. No luck for Leicester this time. Hopes rise for United when Crerand tries a long shot. It's cleared, but they attack again. Giles passes to David Hurd, and his shot tests Banks. These Manchester United stars seem to be clicking at last. Banks must think so anyway. But Leicester show their genius for turning defence into attack. United's tough left half, Morris Etters, almost gives Stringfellow a scoring chance. And once more, the Manchester defenders escape by the skin of their teeth. Time for United to apply the pressure. Creran spots that inside left Dennis Law is well placed. Just watch how that Scottish wonder turns the pass to complete advantage. United have scored the all-important first goal. Law's on the warpath again. This time it seems incredible that City's goal can escape. Yet it does. When half-time comes, Manchester United lead by 1-0. Time now for the massed bands of the Royal Marines. Out they come for the second half. United's 1-goal lead is useful, but by no means commanding. And as Leicester kick off, they set out to demonstrate that it's anybody's game. One good thing for United, Bobby Charlton's in great form. He shoots, it goes to Hurd, and it's in the net. Let's slow the action down and see again just how David Hurd makes it 2-0 for Manchester United. Leicester City really must do something now if they're to pull the game out of the fire. Can they show the fighting spirit they've so often displayed this season? It's now or never. This looks more like the real Leicester City. Howard Riley has a try on the City right. At last, Leicester's persistence brings reward. United don't fully clear a free kick. City centre-forward Ken Keyworth scores. Only one behind now. Leicester could save the game and, with a bit of luck, even win it. But United don't intend letting City off the hook. Danger man Dennis Law hits the post, or he'd have scored again. Law just can't tear himself away from this Wembley turf. On his feet again, Law initiates another attack. Tragically for Leicester, Banks fumbles. Ready to pounce on it is David Hurd. Slow motion lets us see it again perfectly. In fact, almost makes it look easy. It's all over, the end of an exciting, very sporting game. On the field, congratulations all round. United's captain, Noel Cantwell, leads his men up to the Royal Box. For them all, it's the fulfilment of an English footballer's ambition, the Cup and a Cup medal. Incidentally, it's a moment of triumph for their manager, Matt Busby. Proof that he has most successfully rebuilt United. We shall never forget the Munich air tragedy. The now customary lap of honour to let the 100,000 people see what is perhaps the most coveted trophy in all sport. Albert Cricksall being vocal. It's easy to imagine how excited they are, though the cup has never been treated this way before. The whole world of English football congratulates Manchester United on a wonderful victory.
After the final whistle and the lap of honour, British Pathé were given exclusive access to the Manchester United's dressing room to see the celebrations unfold. Milk was the surprising substitute for champagne, as many of the players seemingly enjoyed getting covered in the white stuff before being allowed to sample the more traditional drink. For the first time in 15 seasons, a second-tier team made it to the final. Preston were in their first final in 10 years. West Ham's wait had been even longer, 41 years. But it was the Hammers who entered this contest as the clear favourites.
In the Wembley tradition, Frank Ray mounts the rostrum to conduct a 100,000 cup final crowd in community singing. Another cup final custom. The teams walk out together, West Ham nearest in view. Their opponents, Preston North End. This is the biggest day in the English football year, the match for the FA Cup. And today it's London versus Lancashire, with West Ham favourites. Except, of course, in Lancashire. Each team includes one youngster, 18-year-old John Sissons for the Hammers, and for Preston, an even younger player, Howard Kendall, only 17, and youngest ever cup finalist. Nobby Lawton Preston and West Ham skipper Bobby Moore beat referee Arthur Holland. The official spins the coin, and it's a good start for West Ham. Moore wins the toss. For Preston, Alex Dawson kicks off. Luckily for Preston, left-back Jim Smith is first to the ball, and the Northerners look dangerous. Now see in slow motion how Jim Standen, in the West Ham goal, is equal to the occasion. Again, West Ham have a narrow escape. Ashworth shoots wide. That stings the Londoners into retaliation. Inside left, Jeff Hurst is tackled by Tony Singleton. Kelly save. Again, it's Preston with outside left Doug Holden menacing West Ham. There's no holding Preston, and after 9 minutes, Doug Holden puts the ball in the net. We'll look at it in detail, in slow motion, which is football as it would be if the players had all the time in the world. This is the time for West Ham to pull something out of the bag. A good pass finds John Sissons, and it's the equaliser. Back in the game, West Ham try again, but Jeff Hurst's header is well saved. A determined Preston attack earns them a corner. Holden places the kick well. Jim Stanton only partially clears. Preston skipper Nobby Lawton just misses. Much the same thing happens at the other end. Braybrook heads, and then Johnny Byrne is high, wide, but not handsome for the Hammers. Preston go all out to regain the lead. Standen concedes a corner. Wilson takes the kick. Centre forward, Alec Dawson heads a goal. Preston lead 2-1. Bring on the Guards band. Kick off. A goal down, remember. It's a safe bet. They've had a pep talk during the interval. Anyway, they lose no time, showing the fighting spirit that got them into the final. Outside right, Peter Braybrook is challenged by Jim Smith. Not quite successfully. A corner for West Ham. Braybrook's kick is just what the Hammers ordered. Centre half Ken Brown is there. Not quite on target. Jeff Hurst does better. And yes, sir, Alan Kelly just fails to keep the ball out. That all happened so quickly. Let's see just how West Ham scored the equaliser. Obviously time for West Ham to go into a huggle. Another corner for West Ham. And another escape for Preston. Spurred on by that reverse, Preston become as dangerous as they were in the first half. It's fortunate for the Londoners that Jim Standen's in great form. This looks like developing into a goalmouth scramble, which West Ham will do well to survive. Preston centre forward Alex Dawson finds Standen unbeatable. Jeff Hurst makes ground, then passes to Braybrook. A promising move. We'll follow it in slow motion. Sissons takes a corner, and in trying to clear, goalkeeper Alan Kelly is injured. Everybody asks, is this the dreaded Wembley hoodoo? Fortunately, Kelly was able to carry on. And almost in the last seconds of the game, West Ham inside right, Ronnie Boyce heads into the net. And this is just how it happened. West Ham's third goal, which won them the cup. Johnny Byrne starts a one-man training session. Bobby Moore, captain of West Ham, captain of England, and at this moment happy as any man alive, leads his men to receive the trophy and winner's medal. Lord Harwood represents the Queen. A lap of honour now by the 11 excited men who have won the most highly prized sporting trophy in the world. The general verdict, the best final for many a year. Serve them right as their best girls walk out on them. In the winner's dressing room, you'd expect to see champagne. You have a surprise in store. The drink on the house is milk. If that's their choice, nobody can say they don't thrive on it. This must be the first time the FA Cup has been so misused. some for the club cat.
For the first time in nearly 20 years, the FA Cup final went into extra time and looked destined for a replay for the first time in the Wembley era, till Ian St John proved the match winner.
The soccer war of the Roses, Leeds versus Liverpool. The two teams making the traditional Wembley entrance. Leeds were on the left, immaculate in white. Pipped for the league championship on goal average, the Yorkshire Stars were out to win the greatest of all English sporting trophies, the FA Cup. And so were Liverpool. In control was referee Bill Clements, one of the best in the game. Liverpool kicked off. There were hopes of a vintage final deserving the patronage of the Queen and Duke. Liverpool attacked. Collins dispossessed Hunter and then barged into Byrne. It was a foul, earning Collins a reprimand. It wasn't known at the time, but Byrne's collarbone was injured. For Liverpool, it was a free kick. And here in slow motion, we see how Leeds got out of danger. When Leeds took up the running, right back, Paul Reaney was prominent. And it could have been dangerous to Liverpool if goalkeeper Lawrence hadn't been on the alert. Leeds were full of pep at this stage, taking every chance to menace the Liverpool defence. A rock-like defence matching brawn with vigour. Centre-forward St John passed to his right winger with the result that the Leeds defence had to concede a corner. It brought no satisfaction to the Liverpudlians. Goals just wouldn't come to either side, and by now the rain had added to the players' difficulties. A good shot by outside left Thompson fared no better than any others. Leeds goalkeeper Sprake was quite safe. So both goals were intact when half-time brought on the Marines. Liverpool fans would have preferred the Beatles, but that would have been taking sides. Kicked off in the second half. In a lively restart, both teams seemed eager to inject a bit more life into the game. So far, the defences had proved too strong for the attack. One hero on the lead side was their 20-year-old Welsh international goalkeeper, Gary Sprake. As attack after attack came to nothing, everyone was talking of extra time. Even the Duke, due at Windsor for polo at 6 o'clock. Liverpool inside right, Roger Hunt made a move, cleverly anticipated by Sprake. A success on the Liverpool side was Jeff Strong, playing in place of the injured Gordon Milne. In making a save, Sprake received a nasty kick on the shoulder. For a few seconds, it looked serious. Fortunately, the goalkeeper was soon back on his feet, and when a shot came from St John, Sprake dealt with it safely. So they had to play extra time after all. 22 very tired players on a heavy pitch. And now it was all Liverpool. First blood of the match went to Roger Hunt. Inspired by a goal at last, Liverpool tried again, this time without success. But now Leeds hit back. Right half, Billy Bremner equalised. The game seemed back where it started. The second period of extra time, and how everybody at Wembley hoped and prayed for a goal. Ian St. John had a good try, but not quite good enough. Liverpool were lasting better than their opponents. St. John made no mistake this time. So the Marathon Cup final was all over, and Liverpool were the winners. And what a happy man was Ron Yates, leading his team up to the royal box. This is the triumph every footballer dreams of. To reach Wembley, they'd beaten West Brom, Stockport, Bolton, Leicester and Chelsea. And now the cup was theirs to take home and make the Mersey beat as it's never done before. Not all Liverpudlians got to Wembley, but the whole town turned out to welcome the cup winners home to Liverpool. There's simply no way nowadays of keeping this huge Merseyside city out of the headlines. This is the first time the team bearing Liverpool's own name has won the most coveted trophy in sport, and the population wasn't allowing anybody to forget. Out of Lime Street Station came Ron Yates and his jubilant teammates. The skipper carried the cup. They went up for the cup. Liverpool never had any doubt that they'd bring it back. Heaven knows how many thousands cheered their heroes along the route to the town hall. You could sense the sheer vitality of these Liverpudlians as they massed in uncountable numbers to show their unbounded enthusiasm. If they broke the bank in the process, nobody would care a rap. Ron Yates held the trophy on the town hall balcony. Everybody had had a good view already, but they couldn't see too much of it. The police had their hands more than full. Minor casualties were inevitable in that tremendous crush. Most of them were cases of fainting. More than 600 people had to receive treatment. What's the league championship? What's an international medal compared with this? There's only one FA Cup. Until this time next year, it belongs to Liverpool.
(1966) will be remembered by England fans for a different shaped trophy to the FA Cup. But the greatest domestic cup competition provided its greatest final comeback, as Everton snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in what proved to be an epic final.
In English football, nothing compares with this Wembley festival climaxing the season, the Cup Final. The superb stadium, capacity filled with 100,000 fans up for the Cup. This occasion has everything. But what of the atmosphere behind the scenes? Pathé made newsreel history by filming inside the dressing rooms before the match. These Everton men, tense, strung up, nervous, only 90 minutes away from victory or defeat. These men are so close to realizing every player's ambition, a cup winner's medal. Are they going to win? And for LeBone, a telegram. Good luck to all. Over now to Sheffield Wednesday's dressing room. The same tension, the same big question. Will the cup be theirs? In these shots, we seem to share their feelings. Wembley nerves, the dragging seconds, and that question ticking away endlessly in their heads. Will we win? Ron Springett, an England goalkeeper, knowing he has to be on England form out there. And Wednesday's manager, Alan Brown. Has he picked the right team? He'll soon know. Another dressing room for the referee and the linesman. A few seconds and the man in charge, Jack Taylor of Wolverhampton, will join the procession onto the fateful arena. Once on the field, it was normal football match routine. LeBone and Don Megson shaking hands. Megson spins the coin, Brian LeBone to call. His guess wasn't correct, so what little advantage came of winning the toss went to Sheffield Wednesday. Everton kicked off, Sheffield in white. After only 4 minutes, the final became electric. Jimmy McCalliog in possession. Off an Everton player, his shot found the net. Goal for Wednesday. Up to Everton now to show that players of their calibre aren't unsettled by conceding an early goal. Merseyside fans thought their idols had equalised when Alex Young netted, but he was offside. Another Everton attack might have brought a goal, but for good work by Ron Springett. On the run of the play, Sheffield deserved their one-goal lead. Try as they would, they couldn't increase it, nor could Everton draw level. In high spirits, Wednesday continued through the dying seconds of the first half, still ahead by 1 goal. Kicked off on the resumption, and the great crowd soon sensed that it was going to be a tremendous second half. In brilliant form, Springett dealt with that one. For the Sheffielders, team and supporters, it was the peak of excitement when David Ford scored Wednesday's second goal. To be trailing by 2 goals in the second half is a most uncomfortable position in a cup final. It would have been understandable if Everton had wilted at this stage. They did exactly the opposite. From now on, they were a team inspired. Mike Trebilco beats Springett with a fine shot. Again, it was the 21-year-old Trebilco who scored to make it 2-2. Not even a cup final can prevent the Goodison Park spirit invading Wembley. That Bobby ought to be playing at Twickenham. It was the sort of final the fans dream about, but don't often see. Goals in plenty, and the most dramatic second half seen for years. Everton put every ounce they had into a winning effort. They were twice the team they'd been in the first half. That speedy left winger, Derek Temple, had a great chance and made no mistake. What a dramatic change had come over this astonishing game. Sheffield were now a goal in arrears. There seemed to be nothing they could do about it. Victory to Everton and the Cup, presented by Princess Margaret. What more fitting now than the roar of Wembley to end this day? A coachload of heroes had a hero's welcome, and how they deserved it. Everton brought the cup back to Merseyside, where it had been in Liverpool's keeping for a year. And now the men of Goodison Park had won it. This FA Cup must like it up here. The 10-mile route from Allerton Station into Liverpool was lined by more than 100,000 admirers. But that was nothing to the sight awaiting Everton in St George's Square. As for the sound, the cheers made it like Wembley all over again. Onto the steps of St George's Hall, the players brought the cup. There are cups galore in soccer these days, but they are mentioned by their name: World Cup, European Cup, and so on. Only this one, the most coveted trophy in the whole of sport, is known as the Cup. On such a day, no wonder a bus stand collapsed under the weight of people. And here was the Lord Mayor with enough champagne to satisfy everybody who felt thirsty. Special cheers for young Mike Trebilco, the 2-goal wonder. Before the great day was over, there were about 400 casualties, fortunately mostly minor ones. Win it next year, and it ought to be Merseyside's for good.
The Cup would leave Merseyside in 1967 and return to a Spurs side who, with victory over their local rivals, Chelsea, confirmed themselves as the FA Cup team of the decade.
Great Wembley, not long ago the focal point for world soccer, now the setting for the greatest prize of English football, the FA Cup. This year a Cockney Cup final, Chelsea versus Tottenham Hotspur, two brilliant London teams. Outside, those without a hope of getting in. Inside, 100,000 let out the Wembley roar. Spurs went straight into the attack. Chelsea quickly replied. Charlie Cook surged down the right wing. Into the middle, but the safe hands of Jennings collected easily. Now it was the turn of Tottenham wonderboy Greaves. Gilzine was with him. It spelt danger for Chelsea. No luck for Saul that time. McCready for Chelsea. His upfield clearance found Hollins. A great try, and what a save. From the corner, it was Jennings who again took Spurs out of danger. Both teams are playing steady football, often with flashes of brilliance, far better than many critics had predicted. Notable for Chelsea was Cook. He rattled Jennings with that one. But Spurs had the edge. Mullery's shot hit a defender. Robertson was perfect for the rebound. "45 minutes gone, Spurs 1 goal ahead. Bad for Chelsea. The interval robbed them of the chance to strike back while the iron was hot. And Chelsea felt it, but it was only 1 goal, and both teams looked serious as they went off at half-time. Let's relive that first half through some of the faces in the crowd. The faces of Wembley. As the second half began, Robertson's goal had its effect on both teams. Spurs bent on increasing their lead, Chelsea on drawing level and going ahead themselves. Chelsea had a more determined look about them now than just before the interval. A centre from the right, and Haitley's header went just over. The least experienced man in the Tottenham side, young Joe Kinnear, played like a man inspired. His shot here deflected for the corner. Greaves took the kick, only for Chelsea to turn danger into attack. Eddie McCready's header gave Jennings little trouble. Again, and decisively as it turned out, the sheer class of Tottenham Hotspur showed itself. From Robertson's header, Frank Saul shot into the net. It might have been another for Spurs, but Greaves' shot was brilliantly saved. On came Chelsea now. Baldwin to Haitley, but still no luck. A few minutes before the end, Chelsea got a goal. Boyle centred, Tambling headed in. But the Chelsea time had run out. They failed to get the equaliser. Spurs 2, Chelsea 1 at the final whistle. Great players and great sportsmen, London's old rivals had given the 100,000 at Wembley a final to be long remembered. Cup winners' medals were waiting up there for Tottenham Hotspur. And once again, the last hurdle had proved too much for Chelsea. To a very proud Dave Mackay, the Duke of Kent presented the trophy, which in the whole field of sport is surely the most coveted, the FA Cup. Dave Mackay was in Spurs' cup-winning team in 61, again in 62, and here he was for the third time, and that despite a twice broken leg. The fans have good reason to call him the Iron Man. Mike England, the man Tony Hateley couldn't master. Jimmy Greaves and Alan Gilzine, a great combination. Chelsea's year is bound to come before long. Jimmy Greaves, left out of the World Cup, now back on top of the world. Joe Kinnear and Jim Robertson. Alan Mullery, always an original, one for the pot. Finally, inspiration of the side, Dave Mackay, captain of cup-winning Tottenham Hotspur.
Everton would be back in 1968. Compete for a trophy they'd won 2 seasons previously. But it would be Jeff Astle's inspired West Bromwich Albion side that would come out on top to claim the Baggies' 5th FA Cup.
This was what it was all about, a gleaming magic trophy waiting to be collected. At this stage, the big question was whose colours would garland the cup when it was all over. The scene was set for part 2 of the battle to commence. Albion kicked off. Everton had shown the most promise and class, but the Midlanders were able to clamp down and block their moves. Now it was Albion's turn to pressure their opponents. But though play swung from end to end, promising moves petered out in both goal areas. Everton on the attack, another raid that failed. Williams clear. A soggy, slippery pitch wasn't helping anyone's style, but there were moments. Osborne was in great form and having plenty to do. The minutes were ticking away, but still no goals. Albion came pretty close to scoring. It wasn't close enough, and so the tense, nervous cup final wound its way down towards a goalless full time. Everton's Alan Ball was among the few players who'd overcome the Wembley jitters and was trying to do something about the lack of goals. Osborne was always alert to snuff out an Everton attack. The barren battle for goals continued with Albion pressing into Everton territory. West hadn't been overtaxed in the Everton goal, but did his stuff when called on. Even though the second half showed considerably more promise than the earlier 45 minutes, lack of finish and 2 solid defences were steering the match towards extra time. Hope wasn't pleased with the prospect of 30 minutes more on the tiring Wembley turf. The way play had gone so far, 100,000 people might have been witnessing the first draw in the 40 years of Wembley finals. It was full time. Into extra time, Everton kicked off. 22 tired men desperate for a winning goal. Albion coming away, a promising raid. Astle banged one in, hit the rebound, goal! If ever a man knew the meaning of relief, it was West Brom's Osborne. 3 minutes into extra time and Albion were ahead and fired with the spirit that a cup final lead brings to even the most tired team. This was more like it. Now the game was really alive. At half-time, Everton trailed by that solitary goal. They fought like tigers to get even in those last precious minutes. But try as they might, there was no way of getting the ball into Albion's net. Opinion says they deserved better luck. The final whistle was conclusive. West Bromwich Albion were FA Cup winners of 1968. The Everton boys felt bad. Theirs was disappointment. But up at the Royal Box, the lads from West Brom knew the feeling of glory as Princess Alexandra presented the cup to jubilant Williams. This was that magic football moment. In every game, there are winners and losers. The FA Cup final is the ultimate contest between two champion teams who have fought their way round by round to win a place at Wembley. On this day, defeat is a very bitter pill. Success is the sweetest it can ever be.
Manchester City would round off the decade in what would be the golden age for the club. Already the defending league champions, they would go on to lift the European Cup Winners' Cup and 2 League Cups.
Down south at Wembley, Cup fever ran high too as Leicester and Manchester City made their appearance in the vast arena for the match which would decide who would capture the glory and that hard-to-get trophy, the FA Cup. Joe Mercer's lads were hot favourites, but there are no sure things in a cup final, and every one of the 100,000 in the stadium knew it. The first victory of the day went to Book, Manchester skipper, who won the toss. Incidentally, they used a new 50-pence piece. Up in the Royal Box, King Hussein settled down, so too did Princess Anne. It was her first cup final, a match which Leicester set in motion with a spirited attack. They'd played in 3 previous finals, but had never been the victors. Well, here was another chance for them. Fern got it. These were the early moments of sparring, probing defence, testing for weaknesses, hoping for an early goal. Leicester cleared their lines and mounted an attack. At this stage, they seemed determined and dangerous. Certainly not like a team fighting relegation. Lockhead slid the ball to Clark, who smashed it goalwards. Dowd made it a do-or-die save, giving away a corner. That was a close one. The Leicester lads were certainly having a go, unfortunately with little effect on the opposition. Now Manchester's moment of glory had arrived. That goal was the tonic Manchester needed. Their supporters could already see the cup on its way to their part of the world. From then on, there didn't seem to be any stopping them. They were dominant. Apart from the brief period of supremacy by Leicester early on, Manchester City now held all the aces. Shilton was a mighty barrier. Nevertheless, at half-time, Leicester were trailing by the only goal of the match. There was another 45 minutes to go. Leicester and their fans still had hope as the stadium settled down to the interval entertainment. Back to business. Manchester straight into the attack. They appeared to have the measure of the men in blue and white. In from the wing came a danger threat. Again, Shilton made a great save. The Leicester defenders moved the ball away upfield. Manchester were concentrating on attack. With speed, Leicester could have caught them napping and broken through, but their attacks were far too casual and certainly lacking in zest, though they worried Manchester from time to time. With their slender lead, the Mancunians couldn't afford to relax. Those red and black stripes seemed to be everywhere, hammering at the Leicester defence. Clearance after clearance was picked up, giving the Leicester boys little chance of a breather. Manchester were playing thinking, constructive football. While Manchester were undoubtedly masters of the match, they'd certainly been given a good run for their money. Try as they might, they found it impossible to increase their lead. At the same time, Leicester didn't look like scoring, and the final whistle was only seconds away. That was it. Manchester City had won the cup. A very well-deserved win, their 4th victory in 7 Wembley visits. This was that very special moment. The cup was theirs. No more worries, just the delight of having done it. What a moment for Joe Mercer. Up that long flight of stairs, they came to receive the cup. This, too, was the greatest moment for their supporters, as Tony Brooke, followed by his mighty men, prepared to receive the trophy from Princess Anne. The Manchester fans roared themselves hoarse. The sporting Leicester supporters also showed their appreciation of a fine win by Joe Mercer's grand team. His was a smile to remember as the team he'd nurtured and groomed set out on their lap of honour. It's a couple of 100 miles from Wembley to Manchester, but they could probably hear the cheers of victory up north as those oh so happy supporters let their team know how they felt about the win that made the Mercer men FA Cup champions of 1969.
The 1969 final was the last to be covered by British Pathé cameras and brought to a close 50 years of coverage by one of the oldest media companies in the world of the oldest cup competition in the world. Pathé cameras had captured some of the most endearing and memorable moments of this grand old tournament and given a wonderful insight into the game through the years. For many, this was the golden age of football.
The calendar says it's cup final day, so once again Wembley Stadium opens its gates to 100,000 fans for the highlight of the year's soccer season.
The experts are calling Wolverhampton Wanderers this year's wonder team.
11 men come back to Blackpool to one of the greatest welcomes ever accorded a football team. And Lofthouse runs in for a lightning goal. Tough luck for a sensational try that would have shaken Newcastle.
Anderson puts it just wide of Scott's right hand and makes it 2 up at half-time.
Not even a cup final can prevent the Goodison Park spirit invading Wembley.
And that's the way it went at this year's cup final.